Looked like a long agenda.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it did. I did notice that.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. It's good to see a big crowd tonight. We've got a lot of business that'll come before us tonight, so appreciate everybody coming. It is a little. And with that, I'm going to call our meeting to order. And we'll call the roll.
Matthews?
Here.
Ingalls? Here. Flood?
Here.
Bolt?
Here.
Rutherford?
Here.
Seahorn?
Here.
Richter?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Would you like to do invocation?
Yep.
All righty.
Please pray with me. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the amazing opportunity to come, God, and to share our hearts and minds with each other as we look forward to creating a better, more amazing Shawnee. God, thank you for the sunshine. Thank you for each and every person in this room. God, I just pray that the young adults that are here, that we get to celebrate, God, that they understand how important they are to the growth and future of our city. God, we love you and we praise you. It's in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. You'll join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as Commissioner Flood said, we've got a number of recognitions and celebrations tonight. So item one is a presentation, a certificate of recognition, the Shawnee High School swim team's state championship win. So I am going to come up front, and we've got 4 of these in a row we're going to do, so I'll just stay down there.
Face the crowd, yeah.
Everybody wants to see your faces. I'm going to speak up when you put you. Is that okay? Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. I'll set that there so I know what order we're going in. So, I like to say that Shawnee can go toe-to-toe with anybody, and people here just prove it over and over and over. And we're going to have a whole bunch of these tonight, which is really cool because we have so many great people who do great things here. This bunch here, let me tell you, what a deal, huh? 2 years in a row, state champion swim team. That is an amazing accomplishment. You guys have done just such a good job, and we're so proud of you. But I have, and I guess I'll give this to Coach here, certificate of recognition on the 17th day of April 2023 for the Shawnee High School swim team. On behalf of the city of Shawnee to acknowledge the 5A state swimming championship winner. Like I said, 2 years in a row.
Do you want to speak?
The floor is yours, Coach, if you'd like to have it a second.
Well, we want to thank the city, the Shawnee, for supporting us. We especially appreciate the YMCA that lets us practice there and swim there. And this is a great group of girls. They work hard every day. This is not just something they do for a few months of the year. Probably about almost close to 365 days a year we are made in the pool. So they worked hard, they set a goal, and they accomplished it 2 years in a row, and we're planning on it next year.
Yeah, we'll see you then. We've got a bunch of parents here, so don't be afraid to get in the middle, get you a good picture. If you're going to get one, get you a good one. So once you guys squeeze together in the middle there, so you guys get your. Oh, well, I mean, I don't want Thank you so much. Thank you. All righty, here we go. Can't get enough of these. So, next, where's Sophie Cash?
He's right there at the door.
We'll let everybody get out.
Yeah, the big kid.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Come on right up here. How are you? Good, how are you? Good to see you. How are you? So what we've got here is Logan Cash. Are you a senior?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Logan's a senior at Shawnee High School. And all he did was win the heavyweight, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Heavyweight state wrestling championship. So we've got a certificate of recognition on the 17th day of April 2023 to Logan Cash on behalf of the city of Shawnee to acknowledge the state 5A wrestling, 285 pounds. I guess that's heavyweight. So you don't look 285.
I'm a little bit light for it.
I was going to say, my goodness, you carry that weight really good. So, Logan, I know that's a lot of hard work, and you've made us all proud. So, thank you for coming out tonight, and congratulations. And I bet some college is going to grab you up if they haven't already. Thank you so much. And you are happy to speak or whatever you want to do. I know you weren't expecting that probably, but
Show us how to
man, it's
pin
a lot of
the
hard work to do that, so.
Appreciate that. Really, I just want to thank my coaches, my family, for pushing me, and that's that.
Good job. All righty, so we've got another one yet. This doesn't get old. So, the next one we've got is for Jefferson Elementary. It's their fourth grade math. Where are they? Come on up here. All right. How are you? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Both.
It's nice to meet you.
So you their teacher, sponsor?
Kind of both.
Both?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 4 fourth graders here from Jefferson that won state championship mathematics. Is that right?
In our primary division.
Holy cow. So see, these are the ones that are all the others are gonna be working for in a few years. There's no doubt. Man, that's quite, that must be some smart kids.
We are.
Right over here. And so, let me read
He needs to
let me read
give this
one
to-
real quick. So we've got a certificate of recognition on the 17th day of April 2023 to Jefferson Elementary's Tucker Richardson. Where's Tucker?
Right here.
Okay, okay. David Richardson. There we go. Good job. Kimberlyn Allen. I bet we can figure out which one you are. And then Leland Meyer Castaneda. And advisor Melissa McElfresh on behalf of the city of Shawnee to acknowledge the 4th grade academic team for the 2022-2023 State Mathematics Championship win. That is so cool. So cool. And is there anything you'd like to tell us about the competition or about your kids or?
for our division, we competed online. They worked collaboratively as a team in all the subject areas, and we were kind of middle of the pack till we got to math, and we won by quite a bit. But these are kids that are all brand new to the academic team, and so I'm hoping next year when they get to 5th grade that we can just clean sweep it all.
There we go. We'd love to have you back next year. Now stay put, because I know some people are wanting to get photographs. Susie, did you want, yeah, you guys just go on up there. You got to get in a good position to get a good photo.
Can I say something real quick?
Absolutely, you can say something.
I'm glad that we got first place in mathematics this year. It's just really exciting for me, and I'm sure it's exciting for Kimberly and David and Lou and Miss Ann.
Yep, absolutely.
We're very proud of you guys. You guys did a good job. Thank you very much
Guys,
for
look at this
coming
little
out.
lady. Get a picture, okay?
There we go. All right, good job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we've got another certificate of recognition. This is for airport staff. Is Bonnie still here? There we go. Bonnie, do you want to bring you folks up? All right. Awesome. Where are you guys? Yeah, you should be. So this is a big accomplishment. So do you want to, we'll just maybe lead off with you explain what this is and what the deal this is? Yeah, absolutely.
This is the staff of the Shawnee Regional Airport. You're looking at us. And very proud to say that 3 members of my team put forth the effort to participate in a program called the Oklahoma Certified Airport Employee. I did that wrong. Certified Airport Professional. They got a certificate. I didn't. So did that. So it is a course that is offered through the state of Oklahoma and the Oklahoma Airport Operators Association. It covers absolutely everything you ever needed to know about running an airport, from grant management to grass cutting to trigonometry to how to do maintenance on the airfield and what the lights mean and why they're colored the way they are and how to talk on the radio and how to do proper customer service, fuel quality assurances, everything you can possibly imagine. And they had to take the courses online as part of the group effort, and then they had to pass an examination when they were done. And I can promise you, and I've made this joke before, I got mine years ago, so when I have to do this kind of math, I call an engineer. These guys had to do it for the test, so I'm super proud of them. They all 3 passed it on the very first try, and now they're certified airport professionals.
Awesome. We've got a certificate of recognition on the 17th day of April 2023, and this one's to Matthew Lovelace, but they all say the same thing. I better keep one so I can read the rest of it. Designation as an airport certified, Oklahoma certified airport professional. So very, very cool. So I bet this one is yours, Katie. And then Steve, this one is for you.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you so much. Congratulations. I know that was a lot of hard work, but we really appreciate everything you guys do. So I think they're wanting bunnies in here. You can't get out of the picture. And wait just 1 second. Now we'll get everybody out of the way and you can get the photo. How's that? There we go.
That's best.
Awesome. Good job.
Thank you very
Susie,
much.
you're getting your steps.
Thank you. So, what we're going to do is we're going to skip a little bit and we're going to go down to the mayor's proclamation. So we'll go to item 8. So we will go to 8. First one we're going to do is National Donated Life Month. So there we are. Come on up, Heather. How are you? I am doing awesome. So we've got proclamation for life shares. Okay. It's good to see you. So now you went to OBU, didn't you?
I did.
Okay, so Heather Dean with Life Share Oklahoma is here to accept this, and this is that one that's near and dear to mine. So National Donate Life Month, whereas the most meaningful gifts that a human can bestow upon another is the gift of life. And whereas more than 26,000 Americans receive life-saving organ transplants every year, and more than 106,000 men, women, and children are currently on the national waiting list for organ transplantation, of which 700 Oklahomans, and whereas other persons is added to the waiting list every 9 minutes, and on average 17 people die every day because organs they need are not donated in time. And whereas National Donate Life Month is a nationwide observance to raise awareness of the critical need for organ and tissue donations. Whereas the most effective way to address this health crisis is to encourage everyone to register their decision to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor in the National Donate Life Registry. RegisterMe.org, LifeShareRegistry.org, or at the local tag agency. And whereas one donor can save up to 8 lives through organ donation and can improve another 75 lives through eye and tissue donation. And whereas National Donate Life Month celebrates the generosity of those who have saved lives and encourages others to be registered donors. And whereas the mayor and city of Shawnee, Oklahoma feel that the Donate Life cause of saving and healing lives through organ, eye, and tissue donation is of immediate and worthwhile importance. Now therefore, I, Ed Bolt, Mayor of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim April 2023 to be National Donate Life Month. So give that to you, and this is really a big deal. So please, if you are not an organ donor, please sign up to be one. I know personally I can tell you my son saved 5 lives through his donation. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next up is Fair Housing Month. So Fair Housing Month, let's see, Ryan, you can do that. So, let me set that down, get organized here. So, Fair Housing Month, whereas April 11, 2023 marks the 55th anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act, which enunciates a national policy of fair housing for all who live in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And whereas the City of Shawnee has adopted a fair housing ordinance and has designated the month of April as Fair Housing Month, and encourages each citizen to implement the provisions of those acts. And whereas the City of Shawnee has further designated the city clerk as the Fair Housing Activities Coordinator, and requests that any person or group of persons inform the Fair Housing Activities Coordinator of any planned activities to promote fair housing. And whereas the City of Shawnee is committed to be an inclusive community, committed to fair housing and to promote appropriate activities by private and public entities intended to provide for or advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents. And whereas the City of Shawnee urges all citizens to join in recognizing fair housing and the importance it serves to our community. Now therefore, I, Ed Bolt, Mayor of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim April 2023 to be Fair Housing Month. Very worthwhile cause. Thank you very much for receiving that on behalf of the city. Appreciate all you guys do. Next up, we have Arbor Day. So we have a Girl Scout troop here. I know I saw them. You guys come on up. How's everybody doing? Come on up, this line right up here. You guys doing okay? Oh, you're gonna stay there. Okay. All righty, so this proclamation is again for Arbor Day, whereas in 1872, Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas Arbor Day is celebrated nationally to encourage Americans to maintain and replenish our country's forests, orchards, woodlands, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, reduce heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and where trees are renewable resource that provides sustenance and an energy and building materials, and whereas trees in Shawnee increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Shawnee has been recognized as a Tree City USA by National Arbor Day Foundation, and we plan to continue our tree planting practices. Now therefore, I, Ed Bolt, Mayor of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim this 28th of April, 2023 to be Arbor Day. Very, very cool. And I know Commissioner Flood and I planted some trees this weekend, I think it was, out there in the park on the south side of town. So very, very cool. So I don't know who's going to come except you. Want to come up and do this? And if you got anything you'd like to say? Okay. Can we get your photograph too? You guys jump down in here so get a picture, Susan. Everybody look up. There we go. You get us? Yes. All righty. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all your work. And you got one more. And I promise someone else is going to talk. It won't be me. Proclamation here is for Loyalty Day, and let's see who's the second one tonight. It's Commander Patrick here. Is there anybody here to receive it? If not, we'll go ahead and read it, and then we'll make sure it gets to them. For Commander Patrick. Shawnee VFW Post 1317. Anyone here from the VFW? Well, if not, we're going to read it and then we're going to get it to them. So, Loyalty Day, whereas on May 1st, 1958, President Dwight D. Eisenhower declared Loyalty Day as a national observance. And whereas Congress, by joint resolution approved on July 18, 1958, designated May 1st of each year to be Loyalty Day. Whereas our community is a diverse tapestry of many cultures, heritages, religions, and languages brought together around the values and ideals we all share as Americans. And whereas the founding principles of this great nation have served to provide prosperity, liberty, and justice to more people than in all of prior human history. And whereas Loyalty Day provides us with the opportunity to celebrate the many freedoms secured and preserved by the Americans whose monumental achievements and invaluable contributions have strengthened our nation in common cause. Whereas the city of Shawnee encourages its citizens to join this nationwide observance, to take time and reflect on the privileges of democracy and liberty extended to us by the institutions of American freedom. And whereas we as citizens of this great nation reaffirm our commitment to these historic principles and recognize the responsibility of fellowship within our community, we as citizens strive to remain civil and respectful of each other and remain faithful to liberty and justice for all. Now therefore I, Ed Bolt, Mayor of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim May 1st, 2023 to be Loyalty Day. Very good, a very, very, very good cause that we should all never forget. So we will make sure that this gets to the VFW. So we'll give you that back. So we're going to also jump to item 9 on the agenda, which is the introduction of the Shawnee 2023 student-teacher delegation for the exchange trip to Nikko, Japan. And Jessica Brown, and here they come. We need a bigger room. It's a good thing. There's Jessica.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, good to see you. You got a big group tonight. That's good.
Not as big as it usually is, but that's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. Daisy, Lily, going on this side.
There we go. All righty. So I think it's all, the floor's yours to introduce everybody, and I just hate that you guys don't get to go again this year.
I know, I'm so sad, but next year.
Yeah, next year. I know. But congratulations to being chosen. I mean, that's a big honor. I know it's a very competitive thing, and we really appreciate everything that you guys are going to do to represent our city. But the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Ed. One turn. Hello. Good evening. My name is Jessica Brown. I am a Shawnee Sister Cities chairman for this year. We are in our 33rd year of the organization. Unfortunately, we do not get to go to Nikko, Japan, once again due to COVID. Nikko, they're just not ready for us yet with their health resources, and so they don't want to risk it, and that's perfectly fine. We understand health and safety is more important. So we will be hopefully going next year with the delegation next year. That's kind of been our plan ever since COVID has happened, to take the current group and the following group next year if we don't get to go in our current year. So before I say anything else about our delegation, I would love it if my delegates can introduce themselves to you. So we'll just start down at the end of the line. They're going to say their name and where they're from and their role.
Hi, I'm Amy Wiley, and I'm a 4th grade teacher at Grove, and I'm so excited to get to go on this trip with these guys.
I'm Gavin Grant. I'm a student at Grove, and I'm 7th grade.
I'm Reese Rodden. I go to Grove, and I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Elena Rollins, and I go to Grove.
My name is Daisy, and I go to Shawnee Middle School.
We also have 2 delegates who are not able to be here tonight due to prior engagements. Chloe Scott, she is a student at Grove. She's actually representing her school in our town at Nationals for Robotics. And then we also have Olivia Ramirez, and she wasn't able to be with us tonight, and she's from North Rock Creek. So we have students from Shawnee Middle School, North Rock Creek, and Grove that are joining us. We have students who apply with our organization from Shawnee Middle School, Grove, North Rock Creek, Pleasant Grove, and also Liberty Academy. So, and again, one reason we didn't get to go is because the families that we stay with, the host families, they have grandparents and great-grandparents all the way up to the age of 99, 100. And so we did talk about back and forth with our communications with Nikko to possibly stay in hotels, but at the same time, it's just not the same experience as being with your host family. I'm sure most of you know somebody who's gone to Nikko with us before, just out and about, because we've been around for 33 years. And so it's a very treasured tradition in our town and also Nikko's So it's just something we would love to continue. We still do our service hours within the city. Right now we've been working in the Peace Garden. We just had our addition of a Japanese maple tree that was purchased and planted. We're working on one of the back rock gardens as well. And then this last weekend we worked at Emmanuel Episcopal serving the community with breakfast on Broadway. And we do that about every other month or so. So.
Good. Thank you for all you guys do. I know you guys work really hard in that park, and it shows when you do it. So
Thank you
so much.
I know when we're working in the park, we have just the community that stops by and talks about it with us, you know, what we are, what we represent, and we actually have part of the community who asks if they can help and volunteer. We're like, of course, yes. Anybody can help us pull weeds anytime or shovel mulch anytime. So, but thank you for letting us be here tonight.
All right. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, everybody. Hopefully next year, huh? Keep your fingers crossed. I bet you go. All righty.
We're good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we will jump back to item 5. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope. Okay, so item 5 is citizen participation. So got several names that have signed up, 3 minutes per person, 12 minutes per topic, and our city attorney will keep time for us. So anyway, I have several names. First person who signed up is Mr. James Thomas. I think he's sitting right up front. Mr. Thomas, the microphone is all yours, sir.
Hello, y'all. How y'all doing? I just wanted to bring up, address this issue where I live at. I live on the corner of Market and Dunbar, and having people parking up across the street from me where I can't back out, and I'm in hopes of maybe getting a sign put up where they can stop doing that. Pretty much that's all I got to say.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Sir, what is your address, sir?
7. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, next up is Fred Turner. Is Fred here? How are you, sir?
Well, I'm fine. I'm here. But
There you go. That's a start.
I think I know some of you people up there, and I wanted to thank you for being on the city commission. I know it's a difficult job, and I assume the pay's not very much. But no, and I know some of you. I was born in Shawnee in 1950. I'm 72. Be 73 in September. I live at 3515 North Union, in between Will Rogers and the middle school, and on the east side of the road. Somehow I'm in the Grove School District. I don't know, but I am. But I am in Shawnee, but in the Grove School District. But so there's a couple of things, and I'm a little confused exactly what I can talk about. I'm going to get out of line here, but. First of all, you know, we had a lot of development in Harrison and on Kickapoo. And the first street, and it's interesting because it's between two schools, Will Rogers and the middle school, and a church. Well, that's a 1 mile racetrack. And it's really bad early in the morning. It's not so bad when school zone is in, but if anybody would hang out there, I'm sure they could help the police budget. That's one issue. The other is, I guess, under beautification and parks. Well, let me talk about the budget, one thing. Looks like on our revenue from sales tax, they've been going up about 8%. Well, inflation is around 9, or maybe 10, depending on what you're buying. I mean, it could be more than that. So I don't think the budget is going up any at all. I don't think you have more money to spend. So I would encourage caution about any new projects. And, but then I guess I wanted to talk about the beautification of parks and recreation. I guess this is time to talk about it. I understand that the city now owns the Santa Fe Depot. Okay, we have the original house in Shawnee, I guess is it the Beard Cabin? Well, it needs a roof. It's needed a roof for 3 or 4 years. And, but an interesting thing has come up. I was driving down there the other day, and I believe it was the Garner Construction building that's directly west.
3 minutes. Your 3 minutes is.
Well, good. Well, I'll maybe somebody will give me some more minutes. But anyway, but also I don't know why we waste any money on beautifying Shawnee and doing anything with our taxpayers' money when there are homeless people everywhere. And I don't believe that the city commission has done anything about it in their power. Yes, what are you going to do? Have me? Are you going to call the judge and have me arrested?
No, Mr. Turner.
Oh, you're not?
Mr. Turner.
Contact me at any point in time.
Well, I called, the reason I bring this up, I'm sorry I'm late, but Shawnee Ford, I got a mission, from Shawnee Ford, said that the homeless people went down 30% in Shawnee. I said, well, how many people are homeless in Shawnee? She goes, well, I don't know. Let me check with the city.
Mr. Turner, your time is
well,
expired.
I know, but I'm sure I'll be back. But anyway, she said the city thinks there's 600 homeless people.
Mr. Mayor, calling back.
But sorry, take your time, but she never called me back, the lady that runs the
Mr. Turner,
home thing.
your time has expired. You're out of order.
Yeah,
I'm
very
very sorry.
sorry. Yeah, that's terrible. All right, well, thank you. I hope you notified a few things I said.
Thank you very much. Hey, next is Deborah Waterman. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. Are y'all doing all right?
Doing pretty good.
I am Deborah Waterman. Let me pull up my notes because I am trying to keep within my 3 minutes and respect the time. I do apologize if this isn't as eloquent as I would have liked it to have been, but I kind of ran across something earlier today that really concerned me, so perfect timing to come to the meeting tonight. In light of recent legal developments against a fellow citizen, which I'm admittedly not privy to the details of, I'm here to express my concerns regarding the handling of what appears to be an act of censorship. I apologize for any assumptions I may make through my ignorance and hope you can extend me some grace in that area while dignifying my concern as personal to my feelings of security within our system of government. My concern is that, by all public appearances, a citizen has repeatedly expressed discontent with city business, has now been prohibited from attending public meetings as city business and other means of contact, which extinguishes them access to expressing their concerns by use of legal restraints under the charge of threats against certain council members. Again, I do not know all the details, but as an outside observer, this reeks of censorship and intimidation. Being elected to a public office does not mean you are protected from discontent. If anything, you step into that position expecting complaints and concerns to be voiced, and your responses to those will either escalate those concerns or diffuse them. My perspective is you have chosen intolerance and censorship in response to citizen complaints, and this is a disappointing development. I'm no longer secure in your leadership, nor do I feel you should be sitting in a place of representation when you cannot handle hearing our grievances with the grace our concerns deserve. Your experiences are your own, and I validate the possibility that some of you genuinely felt unsafe and are acting out of that place in integrity. I'm sure the full story will come out in time and the public can make better decisions once those details are known. But until that transparency is established, the shadow of these accusations places doubt in my mind to your ability to be genuine and trustworthy with the citizens and their concerns, because as it stands, it simply appears that you cannot stand to hear what we have to say. Thank you for listening, and I genuinely hope you heard me tonight in the concern it is intended, and without any ill will or nefarious intent. I wish you all good night.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Troy Cook. How are you, Mr. Cook?
Mayor, Commissioners. Okay. You guys say the homeless vagrants have constitutional rights, and yet our rights, the peasants, don't matter to you guys. Our voices don't matter. As far as public forums, meetings, we the citizens have the opportunity to address our voice, concerns, dismay, etc. of how things are being done by you in the city. The elected persons by us peasants. Good or bad, regardless, if it hurts your feelings or not, we are allowed to voice our opinions, concerns, whether it be positive, opposed, with constructive criticism, that is our right. You limit our First Amendment rights, that is a violation of our constitutional rights. A dangerous road to go down, quite frankly. As for transparency, you were asked where the tax money went for the projects such as a depot repair, etc. that was passed a few years ago. But the only answer you seem to want to give is a sidestep. We pay taxes being property owners, business owners, or simply going to the store. We did not deserve to know where our money went. I know this is being recorded. In no way are these words to be misconstrued.
Thank you, sir. And I believe the next is Rick Young. Rick, did you sign up? Yes. All righty. Your handwriting's worse than mine. I wasn't sure, but I thought I saw you in here.
No comment.
It's good to see you tonight.
First off, I want to congratulate all those that received certificates before we all started into our public. And I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity you've heard for some of the other stakeholders to participate in free speech in a public forum. Now, I don't know about you, but if you look across America and see the shining sea, it's a theme that's running through municipalities, states, cities, and so it's been called to bear in shining America. But that's not what I'm here. The last 2 or 3 years, we've been focusing and concentrating on giving more power and voices back to the people. June the 13th, we have an opportunity to do that. There's a lot we're going to have to do between then and now, and that's to educate the populace as to what's going on and what's taking place, and why have we been involved in this for 70 years. And at the same time, I appreciate you all for giving a 7-0 vote on that. That's 1/3 of the action that needs to be taken. Now, you guys can say we're done with it, we did our part, we tried. But at the same time, I'm watching to see from this point how exactly we're going to do that. I'm a numbers guy, I was a basketball coach, third-party validation. And numbers are very important. The shot clock is part of your offense or defense. You use it to your advantage. Going from 2 meetings to 1 meeting is shot clock situation. And at the same time, when there's situations that occur that you don't like what's being heard, then you take it to another forum. I'm kind of one of those guys that say, hey, keep the family business in the family, because once it gets out into the public, you don't have any control over the perception of what's true and what's not true. So at the same time, I've been working real hard. This is my hometown. I'm back here on like 3rd assignment, and at the same time, it doesn't matter which way it goes because I'll be relieved of that. Here's one of the things I want to do. Me and the third way of the home, we have citizen vote, and then the governor has to sign off on what we say and what we do. The first time I came back to my hometown, there was another 7 proposition situation. We whipped on all 7 of them, and our illustrious friend said, because we was working with those guys, if you guys whip, we're going to take everything y'all left on the table. Well, 12 years later, probably 10 years later, they did, and they're getting more. So at the same time, I just want to encourage each one of you, because you're volunteer, elected volunteers. The people that are being paid, set this desk right here, and other people that get paid. Now, I want to do that because a lot of times we acknowledge those people and say we thank the staff. Let me just kind of open it up. We thank the people that are running our town. Okay? Let's not be disabused of the notion who has the power and who does not, where it is, where it's a lot. I thank you for volunteering, sticking your hand up and saying, I want to put the target on my back and have the slings and arrows, because I've been approached many times from every position up here to say get in the fight. No sir, no ma'am. My dad did for 12 years. My brother had a little round and round with Shawnee America. I'm on the outside. I'm a consultant. Okay, so if you need something, let's talk. There's a way that we can do things in Shawnee America. We have 1 alignment, 2 alignments to go.
3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Shelly Bird. Shelly here? There she is. How are you this evening?
Well, I tried to be a little more prepared, but it didn't work out like I wanted it to, so hopefully I can at least be somewhat literate. First, I hope that I'm not annoying enough to be next in line for a restraining order. I've never seen the wheels of proverbial justice move that fast. If only the pedophiles in Park County could be in court as quickly, this would be a lot safer town. I had a different plan that I had worked on for weeks that I planned to present to the council today, but in light of the stabbing and the lewd acts in front of children downtown, I had to regroup. Apparently, there's no way to prevent people from feeding the habitationally challenged in front of the library, so we may as well profit from it. I think anyone wishing to do so should purchase a permit from the city, and if found out of compliance, should pay a hefty fine. If you feed a stray animal in the same place more than once, what motivation do they have to go elsewhere? 2 Thessalonians 3:10 states, if anyone's not willing to work, let him not eat. The city of Tulsa implemented a program where they purchased a 12-passenger, I believe it was, van. Every morning they take the first 12 people in line and they give them work. Load them in a van, they take them out, clean trash, mow, weed eat, whatever. They pay them $60 a day. They've had a great response. They have people lined up that they have to turn them away. I feel we could offer them $50 a day, use the other $10 from each one, and pay a driver for the van, and he can drive them back and forth to work. Since the townspeople of Shawnee are unable or unwilling to use the library because of the homeless problem, I think the city could build us a new library, maybe up on the north side of town. The existing library could be a new homeless resource center. It doesn't get them out of downtown, but it gets them off the street. They already sleep, eat, and bathe there, so it wouldn't take much to put in a few beds. They've already got security in place. Problem solved. That's all I have today.
Thank you very much. And it looks like our last one is Vicki Bryan. So, Vicki, how are you this evening?
Hello. I'd like to address the commission today. My grandson died Friday night. His name was Terry Bryan III. I raised him as mine. I never said why so many different ways in so many different circumstances in all my life. Why? Why? I couldn't understand. It doesn't take a college degree like I strive for so that I know how to help him to know where his life is going to end. It doesn't take a college degree to know that these homeless people, just because they can't work or don't work, don't mean they don't deserve to eat. They do. Bottom line is we have disabled people, whether it's mental, physical, it just doesn't matter. They need assistance. Putting them out here in the public where we have to worry about them masturbating in front of girls, or we have to worry about our own safety when we go to the store. My daughter was accosted twice. Just a man suddenly appeared, a homeless man, right by her car. What I'm asking for is from the biblical to the diabolical. We have to come together as a community, and we have to find the people that desire a change. And we have to put those on a tier system. And then we have to come on down, and we have to use all federal resources, every asset we can get, YouTube channels, whatever it takes to get funding coming in to provide adequate placement, whether that's in nursing homes, whether that's in care centers, whether that's in housing, whether that's a tent community. I don't care. We have to have rules in this society. And if we don't, the good citizens will start rising back. I'm a little bit DeSanto. You know, I say let's take them to the country club, let's buy them new tents, give them pots to cook. Because when you leave, and I've been on the spectrum from here to here, from rich to poor, I understand when you're down like that, you can't think right. You can't sleep right. You can't own anything. Terry Bryan III's wife, girlfriend, didn't even have a bra to attend the services this Friday. So I took up a collection. Let's get her some bras. Well, how come you don't have no bras? Everything gets stolen. Everything. Be used to clean up blood, used to wipe a butt. It is so horrible to even think how these people are having to live. And I think that anything that is not in the spotlight is in the dark and it's dirty. So we have to bring this out. We have to accept this is part of our society, whether we like it or not. We can create a community where we pay these people to sweep them off, mop the floors, to pick up the trash, to beautify, to give them a sense of belonging and to give them a sense of pride. And the man that doesn't work, that doesn't eat, that is so not a biblical teaching. It really isn't. The healthy young man is supposed to provide for their own household in whatever means they have. But when you have holy shoes and no bras and no brushes and no toothbrush, and you got little bitty people here and here and here.
Your 3 minutes is up. I'm sorry.
Just 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Anyway,
that's
please
fine.
consider it from the
you.
biblical to the diabolical. And I'm talking about federal resources, everything. Please, let's help the ones that need help and that want help. Halfway houses, drug
Bryan.
rehab warehouses. YouTube can raise $3 million. Somebody can do something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, consider approval of consent agenda. Is there anything anyone wants to pull off? If not, is there a motion?
Move to approve item 6.
No, second.
Sir. Daniel, Travis, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 6. We'll call the question.
Something happened. Let me try to get back in.
Did you get yours? Okay.
Okay, there it is.
Okay.
And try again.
All righty.
Okay.
Okay.
I've already voted.
No.
Yeah, I have 3 votes, so I will call roll for the ones that go. Commissioner Eagles,
Yes.
Commissioner Richter,
Yes. Commissioner Rutherford
Yes.
and Mayor Bolt.
Yes.
It did give it to me on the computer, though.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 7, I bet I can tell what it is. We have Pet of the Month. So how are you? Looks like you got a little friend there.
This is Ginger. She's about a 4-month-old. Her mom was a Dutch Shepherd. Dad could be a German Shepherd, a Boxer, or a Golden Retriever is what we were told. So she's available for immediate adoption. Her adoption price is $5. That comes with a spay and a current rabies vaccination. We currently have 24 dogs in 18 kennels. So, yeah, we're over capacity. And I've been averaging our calls, and we've been doing about a little over 100 calls a week with just 3 of us. So
Wow.
we've been hopping, so.
Sounds like it.
Yep, and we greatly need volunteers to come and socialize them.
Okay. Very good. Hopefully we can get people to go help. A very cute little dog. Hopefully we find a good home.
We have a microchip event coming May the 5th for $15 and with a lifetime registration.
Very
So,
good.
If someone wants to volunteer, should they call the shelter, or what would you like?
Just come on in.
Thank
Yep,
you.
you're
What are
welcome.
what are your hours of operation so people don't show up whenever nobody's there?
12 to 4, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Very good. Somebody's tired. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
You too. All right, if I get this right, we should be at item 10, presentation of the fiscal year 2021 to 2022 annual comprehensive financial report and single audit report. And Ms. McNabb Fox, our finance director, is going to do that for us. How are you tonight, Lindsay?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing great.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Lindsay McNabb Fox, Finance Director. Before you today is the annual comprehensive financial report for the 21-22 fiscal year. This report is months and months of hard work by the finance staff. And we have a representative here from our auditing firm, Arledge & Associates, who will give a high-level overview of the audit.
Very good. Thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great.
So my name is Jake Winkler. I'm a partner with the Arledge & Associates in Edmond, Oklahoma. Thank you all for working with us this year. Thank you for the cooperation from management and getting us the records timely. And also just thank you for working with a firm that is Oklahoma-based, 100% local, and we do appreciate the opportunity to serve the city. First thing I'm going to cover is page 9 of the report. If you have a hard copy, it is page 20 of the PDF if you do not. This is our independent auditor's report. I'll call attention to the second paragraph here, which says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the city. So essentially, this is a report that we believe conforms to standards materially, that we do not have any findings, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies that we need to report. There is one modification to the report which relates to an emphasis of matter, which is discussed in note 3G to the financial statements, where there was an adjustment to beginning equity in relation to some capital assets that were not on the schedule that were discovered as part of the procedures. Just some old, and I don't have all the details in front of me, so if you ask, I'll just have to go back and get them and I can report those back later. There is some changes to the opinion this year. The auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statements is one newer section. There's 5 bullet points there that outline our responsibilities as the auditor as part of the engagement. I won't go into a lot of the operations detail. You guys discussed budget procedures and everything throughout the year. If I had material modifications to the numbers that you've been presented and been discussing throughout the year, then I would come and discuss those, and I would say, here's the adjustments and here's the impact on your budget. I'm pleased to report I don't have any of those. We do have one audit adjustment I'll talk about here in a little bit, but it's relating to a long-term item, not anything that would affect anything budgetarily. If you are curious as to the operations of the city, there's a management discussion analysis that is presented on page 13, and that continues through page 22. So that's a very robust discussion over the financial statement performance during 2022, as well as an outlook for 2023. There was a new standard that was implemented during the year. That's the, I'm sorry, in FASB mode, and I needed to GASB mode. GASB statement number 87, which is leases. GASB stands for Governmental Accounting Standards Board. There was no material impact to the city, but typically people are looking for it, and that was evaluated by Crawford and Associates. There was no material impact. I'm going to kind of pause there. Does anybody have any questions in relation to the audit report itself?
Any good questions? No?
Well, then I will move to the single audit report. So the single audit report is going to outline your compliance with laws and regulations, specifically in relation to the uniform guidance. So this is going to relate to your federal money that you spent throughout the year. You look here. Third page of this report is the government auditing standards report. If we had any material findings, significant deficiencies, material weaknesses, or instances of non-compliance, those would be reported here. Pleased to say that we have none. The following page is our opinion in relation to compliance with federal compliance requirements in accordance with uniform guidance. Again, if there were any material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, any issues that we found with internal control related to federal programs, or if we had found any non-compliance or question costs, those would be reported here. Pleased to report that we have no such items to report. The programs that we reviewed this year related to the drinking water state revolving funds, that was your only major program this year. Again, no findings, so it's a clean report. If you actually wanted to look at, it's page 9 of the PDF, and I believe it might be page 9 of the report. That is the schedule of findings and question costs. That's a good high-level summary of the results of our single audit procedures. So I'll pause there, and then if you guys have any questions related to the federal program audit, I will be happy to answer that.
Everybody good? I think we're good.
Okay. One last item. So this is the required communications letter to those charged with governance. This is just kind of giving a summary of kind of how the audit went. I'll kind of hit a couple of bullet points here. We didn't have any difficulties that encountered in performing the audit. To the contrary, management was fantastic to work with. They did a really good job of keeping, had supporting records. Things were able to get to us timely. They did a really great job. Again, there was one correction to the financial statements that was related to compensated absences. So it's a long-term item. It's something that we actually worked with Crawford in determining because they actually assist substantially with completing the government-wide statements. So this is a long-term item, so not a budgetary item, which is why I said it's not anything that I would be overly concerned about. We had no disagreements with management. Management does make some representations to us. That letter is available upon request if you would like to see it. There were consultations with other accountants. Again, Crawford and Associates does assist with the financial statement preparation as well as closing some of the year-end out. And again, no other audit findings or issues that we need to discuss. So all in all, I mean, this was a very well-performed, well-done audit. Management did great, kept good records, controls looked good, so kind of a no news is good news report.
Yeah, I was going to say, you keep saying nothing to talk about. That's usually a good thing with an
Generally,
audit.
yeah, I always say the worst kind of audit meeting is the exciting kind.
Yeah.
So this was a good old-fashioned boring audit meeting.
Very good. Let's hope we keep it boring.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Okay. We are to item 11, which is presentation of fiscal year 2023 to 2024 proposed budget. And Lindsay's back up.
Presentation for you all tonight. Good evening again. I'm happy to present to you the proposed FY 23-24 budget. And first, I'd like to thank all the hard work of the department heads and all the city staff and city manager's office to help develop this. It's been a several month process so far, and this is the introduction of the budget, and we'll talk about what's coming next on the calendar a little later on in the presentation. Okay, So we'll start with just a general overview of municipal budgeting. As you know, the city of Shawnee encompasses a general government component, two public trusts, specifically the Shawnee Municipal Authority and the Shawnee Airport Authority. The city and its trusts operate under an annual budget in accordance with Shawnee's municipal code, which specifically states that the city manager shall prepare annually a complete financial plan to ensure each year that shall be responsible for the administration of such plan when adopted by the city commission. In turn, our municipal code is compliant with Title 11 of Oklahoma State Statutes, Chapter 1, Section 17. In general, appropriations lapse at the end of each fiscal year, although appropriations for capital projects may be carried forward from one fiscal year to the next, until the associated project has either been accomplished or abandoned. The appropriated budget is adopted at the fund level and is prepared by fund and department. The city currently operates with revenues in 23 different funds spread across all city departments. However, not all departments receive revenues from all funds. There are two budget development aspects I'd like to talk about tonight. First, the city's budget was developed in close collaboration with each city department and was guided by our budgeting and financial planning policies that were adopted by the City Commission in March of 2022. These policies specifically set the following framework. The city will not borrow from any external source to fund ongoing operations. Any excess fund balance should also not be used to support ongoing operations, but can be budgeted to fund one-time expenditures such as capital. Each city fund should include a contingency reserve of no less than 2% of the fund's budgeted operating expenditures. And the general fund must maintain operating reserves in the amount of no less than 14% and keep a range of 14 to 20%, which equates to approximately 2 months of continued operations. Other funds that support personnel or operating expenditures must maintain operating reserves at a target level of 5 to 20% of the total budgeted expenditures. As I previously stated, the budget was developed in collaboration with city departments. The identification of operational needs was accomplished through a joint review in which department directors, city manager's office, and the finance director participated. As departments assessed their operational needs, the city manager and myself reviewed historical revenue receipts to help determine projected revenues for this proposed budget and adopted a conservative approach which is in line with prior years. After all requests were entered and revenues were set, the city manager and myself found that we had more requests than available revenue. We had to determine which requests would best match the overall needs of the city and continuity of operations. We received a total of 8 position requests, in which 4 are included in the proposed budget before you today. These positions include an assistant city engineer, an animal welfare officer, a residential code enforcement officer, and a special events and volunteer supervisor. This will bring our total position count of both full and part-time positions to 306. 245 are in the general fund, 52 in the Shawnee Municipal Authority, 5 at the airport, and 4 in various other funds. The other 4 position requests are on hold until future revenue projections increase. Currently, the proposed budget before you today includes revenue projections for capital projects, which several projects are continuing from the current fiscal year to include the wastewater treatment plant, the water treatment plant, and projects approved in the 2018 half-cent sales tax. Budget is currently unassigned for new capital projects. However, the department heads have submitted their 5-year CIP plan, and these projects will be evaluated in the coming weeks and be presented at the next commission meeting. When setting the budget, different revenue sources are evaluated and assigned to expense types accordingly. Recurring revenues can be reasonably assumed to be available every year and is therefore the basis of ongoing operations and personnel costs. These recurring revenues include sales and use tax, water, sewage, and garbage collection service charges, fees for licenses and permits, rental or interest income. In the proposed budget across all funds and departments, the reoccurring revenues account for approximately 34% of the proposed budget. The city also has access to periodic revenues, which are tied to specific time periods, such as our half-cent sales tax that was passed in 2018, which is in place until 2028, or the downtown tax increment financing district, which also has a sunset date. Other revenue sources for this type may be related to specific eligibility requirements, such as our community development block grant, which is population and income based. The periodic revenue makes up 2% of next year's budget. One-time revenues are those that are associated with fund balances, special disbursements, project-specific loans, grant applications, or donations. These one-time revenues account for over 64% of the proposed budget. Once spent, these revenues will not renew, which means that once ARPA or Oklahoma Water Resource Board loans are spent, our annual budget will shrink significantly. One nuance in the budget that I'd like to address before we jump into some specific numbers is to talk about how in our budget we do have a transfer of funds between funds. So per Oklahoma statute, money can be transferred from one fund to another. And these interfund transfers show up as an expenditure in the sending fund and a revenue in the receiving fund. What makes this so important is that the budgeted revenues and expenditures are higher than what you would expect if you were only to look at cash at hand. The example shown on this slide clearly demonstrates the resulting effect. In the fiscal year 23-24 budget across all funds, the city has a total of $16.4 million in interfund transfers. Now, specifically for the 23-24 budget, so the proposed budget for all funds is $153.4 million, excluding any estimated fund balance. Other revenue makes up 52% of revenues, which mostly consist of loan proceeds from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board for the wastewater treatment plant projects. Taxes is our next largest category at 23%, or $36.3 million. This, of course, is our sales and use taxes, which makes up 91% of this category. Charges for services is 11%, or $16.6 million, and 90% of charges for services is made up of the revenues for water, sewer, and sanitation services. Next is our transfers in, which is also at 11%. This is the transfers between funds as discussed on the previous slide. The last sliver on this chart is a group of 5 different revenue types to include grant revenue, rental revenue, license and permits, fines, forfeitures, and interest income. Next, we'll look at an overview of the general fund. So the total revenue is $35.4 million, which includes $7.6 million in estimated beginning fund balance. Excluding fund balance, total revenue is mostly generated by taxes at 74% and transfers in at 20%. Taxes were estimated conservatively by looking at a previous 3-year collection history. All revenues combined make up $35.4 million in comparison to $29.8 million in expenditures. As previously discussed, among the expenditures is the set aside for contingencies, which in the current year is $596,000, which is 2% of the budgeted expenditures. And the anticipated fund balance remaining after all budgeted expenditures ends in the range of the 14% to 20%. This graph shows you the magnitude of expenditures by department. It's important to remember that the police department includes police patrol, criminal investigation, dispatch, police admin, animal welfare, and emergency management. The fire department consists of fire suppression, fire administration, and fire training. The combined percentage for both of those public safety is 55% of the total general fund budget. Administration is the city manager's office, which includes the budget for contingency. And the public works accounts for streets, traffic control, and the cemetery. The rest of those categories, you'll see the combined group that you see there is some smaller departments, which is the Expo Center, City Clerk, Human Resources, Community Development, and Building Maintenance. As previously stated, these are the position counts for each of our funds. The general fund is gaining 4 new positions in the budget proposal, which is the assistant city engineer, residential building inspector, special events and volunteer supervisor, and an animal welfare officer. In addition to the general fund, as well as the Shawnee Municipal Authority and Shawnee Airport Authority funds, revenue by source and expense by department is available in the 20-plus other funds that are part of the city's fiscal year 23-24 budget. Newly added funds for the city this year is the grant fund, which is to set up properly account for grant awards, and the newly adopted half-cent sales tax in 2023 for capital improvements. A detail of these funds are included in the report provided to you today. Additional new funds that were added in the 23-24 proposed budget is in the Shawnee Municipal Authority. The first 2 are the Water System Capital Project Fund and the Wastewater System Capital Project Fund, to keep these projects for these 2 systems separate from operating revenues and expenses. The last fund added is the Meter Maintenance Fund, to account for revenue collected and expenses that are specifically tied to the maintenance of water meters. On the budget timeline, so for the May 15th meeting, we will have a presentation of the 5-year capital improvement project plan. We will also hold a public hearing of the budget, and then the budget adoption is scheduled for the June 20th meeting. And by law, we have to adopt our budget by 7 days prior to the beginning of the new fiscal year, which is June 23rd. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the budget.
Anybody got questions?
Just a couple from me, real quick. You listed the full-time, part-time at 306.
Yes, sir.
In your experience for a community our size, is that high, low, or on par?
I couldn't really speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last year, we adopted the 2% contingency in our fund balances for the first time.
Yes, sir.
That remains in the budget?
Yes, sir.
Just want to get that on the record.
It has been increased to meet the 2% since our total expenditures have gone up.
Gotcha.
The contingency will also increase.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, could you kind of elaborate more on like what operating reserves are, or like what contingency reserves are, like those things being separate from each other, but like what does it mean to have an operating reserve, because what is it for?
The operating reserve?
Yeah. Like
So the operating reserve, sure. So the operating reserve is to have enough cash in the bank to say that if everything shuts down on one day, that we will have 2 months of operating, say our sales tax just goes completely zero, that we'll have 2 months in the bank to say we can operate the city for 2 months. So that's a GFOA, Government Finance Officer Association. That's a best practice set by that organization. And It's to say that we have 2 months in the bank to maintain operations. And the contingency is set to provide any overages that might be in the budget that we're not aware of at this time. So it's also a placeholder as well for any time sales tax starts to decline, that we will have that operating contingency to kind of help offset, so we can keep paying our necessary expenditures.
Okay.
Anybody else? I guess we're good. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alrighty. Item 12 is consideration of an ordinance amending certain. Oh, you're down.
I'm down.
Oh, man. Yeah, the vice mayor's got problems with his computer. Tell you what, that's a good time. Let's just take a quick break while they get that fixed for you. Does it sound good?
Is it your attachments? My attachments aren't loaded.
Mine aren't either. I pulled up my iPad.
Let's take a quick break. Yeah, 10 minutes would be good. And then to give them time to fix that. That's what you can see. What I need to see. of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Shawnee relating to citizen participation. Mr. Vondran, our city attorney, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Good evening. We've had significant discussion both during citizen comment and in commissioner comments over the past several months with regard to citizen participation, the rules associated therewith, and the enforcement thereof. That prompted many questions from the commission, as well as a few questions from the public at large with regard to this process. And so staff has taken a deep look at our existing citizen participation ordinance to make sure that we are in compliance across the board, that there's no ambiguities or any cause for concern, and to also take the time to educate the commission and the public with regard to why this exists, does it have to exist, some of these questions that have been posed. So I'll start with that background and then we'll get into the recommendations of staff. Essentially, and we've talked about this a little bit, but I want to give it as part of this general overview. The United States Supreme Court has made the determination that public comment is not a part of the government process. Now, there are requirements, and our friends at the media table will appreciate that beginning in the mid-'70s into the late '70s, primarily driven by the press, there's been a push for open and transparent government, meaning that the public must be made aware of and must have available to them the ability to know what is going on when bodies such as yourself, elected officials, undertake the process of governing. Now, does that mean that there is a right to active participation? No. When the United States Supreme Court weighed in on that, they made no such findings, and they have not since that time made any findings that there is a requirement for active participation. And in fact, you can see that particularly at the federal level of government, where that is very much restricted and limited. What is not is access by the media. So I may not be able to go speak to the U.S. Senate, but I can turn on C-SPAN and watch what they're doing anytime. From there, this has developed, and mostly smaller governments, primarily municipalities, have undertaken for the benefit of the governing body to implement citizen participation in some form or another. City of Shawnee has done so and has done so by ordinance. So by creating a forum, the City of Shawnee has allowed for that public comment. But make no mistake, that does nothing to change the fact that it is not a right. What it does is it means that this legislative body has determined that there is value in receiving that input, feedback, comments, concerns from the public. And I know from comments that most, if not all of you have made, that's not something that this particular commission is interested in doing away with. So what is the purpose of the rules? Well, the United States Supreme Court and the Oklahoma Supreme Court have stated that by offering that citizen participation, the city creates a designated forum. But the city may also impose reasonable restrictions on the time, place, and manner of the speech, provided they meet certain requirements. And those requirements are that they can't attack a specific viewpoint. They must be viewpoint neutral or content neutral. There can be nothing in a rule that would specifically prevent or promote any specific content or subject matter. Next, the rules must be narrowly tailored to serve a significant government interest. Well, what is the significant government interest? Well, it's the effective and efficient function of government. We're going to be here for quite a while tonight. Essentially, put simply, what it boils down to is without rules governing public comment, we could be here all night. That could take away from time to be spent on the actual conduct of the business. And I think that this would be the time to address that distinction, which is an important one that I know you all likely understand, but probably didn't before you took the seat, which is not everything that occurs at a city meeting is city business. City business are those things that we are being presented on or voting on, taking action on. So While public comment is a valued portion of the city meeting, it's something that no one up here is interested in doing away with. It is not the business of the city. So, your primary purpose as the commission is to conduct the business of the city, and that is the significant government interest. The other thing that must be present is that alternative channels of communication are left open. So what does that mean? Well, it means that this podium in a citizen comment period is not the only means by which the citizens of Shawnee can communicate with staff or with its elected officials. We don't have an issue there because we have multiple forms by which citizens can communicate directly with staff, express concerns, communicate directly with commissioners or the mayor, express concerns. Additionally, none of the regulations in our existing ordinance or under the proposed amendment thereto do anything to attempt to curtail what are First Amendment rights that fall outside of this commission chamber. So, our citizen participation period is authorized by Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 41B, and it further imposes rules for public comment during citizen participation, such as must stand, approach the podium, state name, sign-in sheet, address comments to commission as a body, not to any member thereof, speak respectfully, no profanity. We have time limits. All of those rules have been determined by various courts across the United States to be reasonable regulation of citizen participation. So the city has that authority to impose those rules and restrictions during that period. And again, I want to emphasize, but they must be viewpoint neutral, narrowly tailored to serve a significant government interest of maintaining order, peace, and efficient government function, and must leave open alternative methods for communication. So, keeping that background and those guardrails in mind, when staff took to review of the existing ordinance, we found that it was generally compliant with existing law, both set down by statute and by case law in the United States. So we next looked for any ambiguity or anything that could create concern or uncertainty, and that led us to the single amendment that's being proposed in the ordinance tonight. Nowhere in the original ordinance, which is what governs public comment today, does it talk about ceding or granting an individual's time to another. It is silent as to the issue. It doesn't say you can do it. It doesn't say you can't do it. We have had differing viewpoints over the years on whether or not that is appropriate. The recent precedent has been to allow citizens to sign in and cede or grant their 3 minutes to another individual so that it may increase their time. Looking at that in the most neutral fashion possible, we're making the recommendation that we clarify that you cannot cede your time. And the reason why is because the ceding of time creates potential abuse. What is that potential abuse, you might ask? If we have an individual who is going to speak on a topic, there's a 12-minute per topic limit. If they have 3 other individuals cede their time, that will exhaust public comment on that topic, meaning that only one person speaks to a specific topic. If that is not allowed to occur, then that would open the door for others who do wish to actually address the commission and not just cede their time to speak on that topic. And so because of that potential conflict, we are making that single recommendation to clean it up. To be clear though, if the commission decides that they don't believe that clarification is necessary, or they do not believe that the scenario that I have just addressed creates enough concern to modify the existing ordinance, we do believe it is compliant with all state and federal laws relating to the subject. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Anybody got questions?
So currently you're saying that there's no official documentation on whether or not it is allowed?
The existing ordinance is silent.
And so we're just doing it because somebody said that's possible?
So when we start talking about precedent, it is often difficult to track down precisely when it started.
Right.
But we do have a historical practice of allowing it.
Right.
I've not been able to ascertain when or how that began.
Okay.
So we looked at it from the lens of, is there a potential harm or is there a potential downside to continuing that practice? And I've given you the scenario that we've addressed.
But it is there is nothing on it in the ordinance at all.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
You said that, let me get my words right. That the public forum is meant to be open to communicate with us, and that within the public forum, there are rules that the city, rules like this potential one, that would navigate the public forum, and the end game is so that we can continue to conduct our business, and that it, as long as it doesn't, if I understand it correctly, as long as it doesn't impede on our business as usual to conduct that business, then we're allowed to have the public forum. Did I get that right? I might be wording that completely wrong.
No. I think I understand what you're asking, Commissioner, and let me try and provide clarification to the extent I wasn't clear. So I think there's really two key points embedded within your question. The first is, and again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but I do hearken back that the root of this, the foundation of it is we're not required to do it. And so by creating the forum through an ordinance, the city is creating that opening for the delivery of comments to the commission. At that point, the test is not, do the comments interfere? The comments by law need to be whatever the comments are. You don't generate that content, I don't generate that content, and we certainly don't censor that content. Now, I will tell you there are other government bodies that have adopted rules that say you can only comment on agenda items, and that has been upheld by the courts to be appropriate. We don't have that restriction, and it's not being proposed tonight. But there are more restrictive ways to approach that. But what that creation does, and what the rules that are adopted by the governing body do, is they create the framework to ensure the efficient function of government. They're designed to ensure the efficient function of government. We don't independently then apply a test on every comment whether or not it's interfering with that function. We just hope that the rules we've put in place accomplish what they're there for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I wrote down the wording a little better. So has seating time prevented the business as usual type of agenda items? Like I wrote down, like, how has seating time ever prevented the commission from conducting its business that would lead to this practice?
Sure.
Because I've been watching, but before election, I've watched for a full year, as many as I could. Attended a lot in the spring, and I've watched some as far back as 2-3 mayors ago in real time during those years. And so I don't have the historical memory to go off of that. Like, has that instance ever happened before?
Sure. So I guess I would answer that a couple of ways. The first one being, it would be pure speculation on my part as to whether or not it interfered with business for the reasons that I just explained. We put the rules in place to help prevent that, but we don't make case-by-case determinations that it has or has not the specific comment. And again, we should not, and I would hope would not, because of the content neutrality that we must show. as to whether or not there's been a circumstance that I set out, where we have individuals who may wish to speak to a topic, but before they have the opportunity to take the podium, the time limit on that topic has been exhausted. The only one I can think of had to do with the Marquee project, where we had more people signed up than there were slots available. There were seating of time then, but it would be pure speculation on my part whether or not somebody felt like they didn't get the opportunity to be heard. We were just essentially playing devil's advocate with our own ordinance to see if there was any potential problems that existed based upon the comments and questions that came from the public and from the commission. And that is what we identified.
Any other questions?
If I remember my history terms correctly, or civic government, it would stop the practice of possibility, or the possibility of a filibuster, basically, is what, one of the things that could happen. You've got 4 people that can have all one opinion and use all of the time, and no one else on the sheet's gonna get to speak on the matter.
That could have a differing opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a potential risk that we've identified, yes.
But they could still access us by other means besides the public
Correct.
podium.
Which is precisely why those other means exist and are left open and are unlimited. They're not subject to time limits.
Right. And those are used quite often. I know we all receive quite a few emails or from one means or another. I mean, we're contacted quite often. Any other questions for Joe? If not, do we have a motion? But go ahead, you have another point, I can tell.
No.
Oh, you're.
No, I was gonna try to read that. And it went off. Trying to word the appropriate motion.
Consider an ordinance amending portion.
To disallow the seating of time.
You have a proposed ordinance before you, and so
Yeah.
staff's recommendation is
So-
adoption of the proposed ordinance. If that would be an easier motion, Mr. Vice Mayor.
It would. That would be my motion. I just
Okay.
can't see.
Okay. Darren, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All righty, thank you, sir. So we have a motion and a second. And let's see, I guess now it's time to vote on this one. Or Joe, you need to read.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, amending certain portions of Chapter 2, Article 2, Administration, and also providing for severability, codification, repealer, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now it's time to vote. So we'll see if this works, or we can, there we go. Did it come up on yours? No?
Abstain.
No. I don't know how many you got.
No, it's not. It didn't pop up.
Commissioner Eagles?
Yes.
Looks like. Oh, you didn't get a vote, did you?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's see, did we get everybody? 601. Okay, motion passes 601.
Did you vote? Yes.
Okay. So we move on to item, oh, we need an emergency
Yeah,
clause.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add emergency clause to item 12.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Story.
So we have a motion for the emergency clause. Do we have a second?
Second.
What is that? Okay, so Daniel and- Okay, we have a motion and second for emergency clause on item 12. We will call that question when Lisa's ready.
Okay.
Abstain.
Came up on mine. bet you can
Vice
get it.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, your vote.
Yes.
It's okay. Commissioner Ingalls?
Yes.
And that also passes 6-0 opposed and 1 abstention. Okay, item 13, consideration of suspension of the agreement between City of Shawnee and Shawnee Forward relating to economic development services, and our city manager, Andrea, is up. How are you, and welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. For several years now, we have had a contract with Shawnee Forward to do economic development on behalf of the City of Shawnee. Right next to me is Casey Bell, Chairman. I had been approached by Shawnee Forward, and it was the Board of Directors' desire of Shawnee Forward to ask for a suspension of the current agreement in light of the recent resignation of both the Chief Executive Officer as well as the Economic Development Lead, because currently there is no staff that is dedicated to doing economic development for the city. So again, the Shawnee Forward Board of Directors approached me and asked if that would be a possibility, which is why you have this agenda item on this evening's agenda. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Casey Bell, as the chairman for the Board of Directors for Shawnee Forward, is here to answer any questions you may have of him as well.
Very good. Anybody got questions for either Andrea or Casey? Casey, is there anything you'd like to say?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion in light of the fact we don't have any questions?
Move to approve the suspension
Thank you,
contract.
sir.
I'll second.
Daniel and Cammie. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 13. We'll call the question. This is weird.
Commissioner Rutherford?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rutherford?
Yes.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 14, consideration of a professional services agreement with DeVox Project Management Group for the infill housing pallet. And Mr. Harkins is up.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Ryan Harkins, Community Development Director. This is, as noted, a professional services agreement for an infill design pallet, infill housing pallet. The purpose of the project is essentially to create a series of blueprints that can be used by property owners in older, smaller lots in the community. This is an area that was identified as a need over the last few years, not only as the comprehensive plan that we currently have was being developed and adopted, but in discussions after that with regard to the housing situation in our community and the lack of affordable housing and the lack of housing stock. This is something that staff has identified as a possible solution to help address that issue. This would be designed so that you as a property owner could take the blueprint out of the pallet, sign a release, and then use that in relation with your builder to customize in terms of furnishings, fixtures, etc., to fit your taste. But it would be designed to be used essentially in the southern third of the community, where the lots are much smaller in terms of width and size. Staff issued an RFP, as noted. We sent that out nationally through APA's website, the American Planning Association. We also worked with AIA Oklahoma to distribute that to firms. We received 2 proposals, and a selection team, as noted in the staff report, looked over both and felt the recommendation should be that of Devo Project Management Group. They're looking at trying to have everything, once they are given a green light, done in about 6 months max, and they're ready to get started right away and start working with us. Again, this was, as noted in the staff report, one of the 8 priorities for 2023 that the city manager noted in her State of the City address. It also addresses one of the issues in the last strategic plan the city adopted with regard to neighborhoods and housing conditions. Staff's recommendation is approval of the agreement and authorization of the necessary signatures. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
Funding for this item comes from other professional services.
I'm sorry, what's that?
The funding comes from the budget item.
Yes, we have money already
which
budgeted
is-
in this
I was
year's
just going to
budget.
note, that is the same account that our suspension of the item in the previous, is it the same? It looks the same to me.
Seeing no.
The previous one came out of the Economic Development Fund.
Okay, never mind.
This is the general fund, and here it is the department budget for community development.
Okay. So it's the same.
The difference would be that 0510.
Gotcha.
That's community development.
Ryan, one of the purposes of this, if I understand it correctly, is it to provide citizens with a pre-stamp of approval plan to move forward so that they
Correct.
can infill projects without the, they have a plan already in place that the city has said, these are great, go ahead and move forward with these.
That is correct. These would be essentially, once created, we would do an internal review and get our building inspectors to pre-approve these and review them in advance, so that once you take one of these designs, we have a building permit attached with that at a location that you supply an address for, and then it makes the review process that much faster and gets you on your way quicker.
Did I see something like this in that, not the most recent presentation, but the one in the fall from the Unified Code Development? Do I remember that? Like where they had like a picture and it was a very specific, like this could be pre-approved?
That's a possibility that
Okay.
could have been in there.
Because it's supposed to help with the coding and the permits.
It help-
Streamline it, get it out of the way before they get going type of
Correct.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned.
I feel like I remember seeing like a
Yeah.
graphical design of what could be an infill palette type of
There
situation.
I can tell you there's been that discussion with the consultant for the development code, as well as the idea of conservation subdivisions and build-through acreages.
Any other questions? I know this has been a difficult thing. Some folks haven't been able to build on their own lots.
Since I've been here, we've had a number of people, not only in our department, but other departments, hear from the community about, I have to buy 2 lots or 3 in order to try and do something. And so this is an opportunity to help address that situation and mitigate it.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Tammy and Travis. Okay. Cross our fingers and toes and we will call the question.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rutherford. Oh, you could vote.
It's weird how it's one time. Motion passes 7-0. Item 15, consideration of a task order in accordance with the agreement between the City of Shawnee and Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company, Inc. for water system improvements along Murray Drive. Mr. Barkheimer, how are you, sir?
Pretty well, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. These items should be coming familiar to you all. We had 3 of these on the last commission, but for those who may not be familiar, back in September of 2022, staff briefed the commission on a plan for the city's ARPA funding, allocating the funding for water and sewer projects and maintenance hotspots around town. The replacement of the water main along Marie Drive was included in the list of projects to be completed within the state legislative allocation of ARPA. It includes the replacement of over 550 foot of water main, and also worth noting, since that street is in less than stellar condition at the current state, we were planning on also doing a surface treatment to the street after construction is done. That way we don't worsen that street with the construction traffic of the water line project. So there will be an element of this project that is street, but this task order is for survey, design, and bidding. And as the mayor stated, it's with Burns and McDonald Engineering Company for $68,300. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Anybody got questions? No? Anyone have a motion?
Move to approve item 15.
Thank you, sir. Daniel and Cammie. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 15. We will call the question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
And that motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is a public hearing to rezone property located at 1804 West Dewey Street from I-2 Light Industrial District and R1 Single Family Residential District to A1 Residential Agricultural District, case number RZ06-23, applicant Larry LeRae. And it's not Mr. Harkins. Surprise, surprise.
I'm going to sneak up here before Ryan gets up here. As you may have noticed, the public hearing item is separate from the ordinance. Staff attended an OML conference, then the OML council recommended that you keep public hearings separate from the ordinance so that it is clear when a public hearing is closed. So we thought that that would be a good practice to start. So I just wanted to just give you a brief little update on that. That's what the difference is, and moving forward, our public hearing items will be separate.
Very good.
Have any questions?
Everybody good? Thank you very much, Lisa.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, with regard to the actual item itself, the day of the Planning Commission public hearing, the applicant reached out to staff and asked for a deferral. The applicant is currently in the process of negotiations for a potential sale of the property, and asked for the deferral just to see if that contract can be completely executed and the process completed. With that said, staff and Planning Commission has recommended the public hearing for this item, as well as the next item, the ordinance itself, be deferred to the May 15th City Commission agenda.
Okay. Is there anybody that would like to make that motion, or do we have any questions concerning that?
Make the motion we approve.
Staff's recommendation for deferral?
Yes, sir.
To the May 15th, okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second to defer to May 15. We will call that question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 17 is consideration of an ordinance to rezone property at 1804 West Dewey Street from I-2 Light Industrial District and R1 Single Family Residential District to A1 Residential Agricultural District, case number RZ06-23, applicant Larry LeRae.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. We follow staff's recommendation, defer the May 15th meeting.
There we go. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Second.
Man, that was fast. I think Travis got in there first, though. We have a motion and a second to defer this to May 15th. So we will call that question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
I never remember I can do that. And motion for deferral passes 7-0. Item 18, consideration of a resolution authorizing Mayor Ed Bolt to cast a ballot for the 2023 Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group, OMAG, election of 3 trustees. And so I know we don't have I don't have them here where I can read the names, but it was in our packet, and we got recommendation from city managers on who those folks were. I know it was 2 incumbents and the assistant city manager from Mustang, I believe.
Tim Lyon, city manager of Midwest City. Pam Polk, City Manager of the City of Collinsville, and Justin Battles, the Assistant City Manager of Mustang.
Right, and the first two names, I believe, are incumbents currently serving in that position. I know the gentleman from Mustang came highly recommended, so I felt very comfortable with that recommendation.
Yes.
So do we have any questions or a motion on that?
Make a motion that we approve the consideration.
Second.
So Travis and Cammy, and that would, Mr. Vondran is up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution authorizing and directing Ed Bolt, Mayor and authorized agent of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, to cast votes for trustees of the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group to fill expiring terms of trustees.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 18. We will call the question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
And that motion passes 7-0. Item 19 is consideration of memorandum of understanding and lease agreements to continue use of the Shawnee Rescue Mission as a homeless resource center, HRC. Mr. Harkins, back at the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approximately a year ago, the city was offered the use of the Shawnee Rescue Mission by its owner, Glenn Blankenship, to use as a resource center regarding our homeless program. We agreed to an MOU at the time that was up for renewal, and this is that renewal. It is in more of a, not only an MOU, but more of a lease type of agreement this time as far as formatting. The department has funds available to cover incidental costs related to phones, internet, and things like that. The facility is used right now most days. We're continuing to work toward having a volunteer staff to open 6 days a week. So we're always looking for volunteers. But should we be successful in future ESG grant applications, that grant can help cover some of the costs as well for operations there. Right now, we are using it, other than donations, really through volunteer labor, other than Erica's position. So with that, staff recommends approval of the MOU and lease agreement and authorization of the necessary signatures. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got questions for Ryan? We're currently at 5 days a week right now, is that right?
Yes, we're at 5.
And we're hoping to go to 6.
If we can get at least a core group of volunteers, we'll do the 6th day, but it really depends on having a certain number of volunteers per shift as a bare minimum to stay open.
Yep. I know they see quite a few folks down there every day that they're open, and it seems to be helping, I think. Has anybody got a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Daniel, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 19. We will call the question.
Yes.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 20 is consideration of resolution approving and adopting sub-recipient Section 3 plan to comply with requirements of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968 for all grant recipients and subrecipients of CDBG-CB funding. Mr. Harkins, all yours again.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This is a housekeeping item related to our CDBG COVID funding through the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. The Section 3 plan deals with providing employment and economic opportunity to those that are in LMI households. This is generally a housekeeping item that is done prior to release of funds. In order to help get money to communities faster, the department was trying to do release of funds and then pick up items like this prior to grants being closed out. So they're coming back to communities like ours and asking us to get these documents adopted. Staff's recommendation is approval of the item and authorization of the necessary signatures.
Very good. Any questions for Ryan? Does anybody have a motion?
Move to approve item 20.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Daniel and Cammie, thank you, heard. All righty, Mr. Vondran, you're up again, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution approving and adopting the subrecipient Section 3 plan to comply with requirements of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968 for all grant recipients and subrecipients of the CDBG-CD funding.
Say that 3 times fast, huh? Yeah, very good. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 20. We'll call the question.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Since Commissioner Daniel Matthews got up, let's take 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
Because of the next item.
Oh, okay, very good. Alrighty, I figured. Very good. Thank you for clarifying that. So item 21 is consideration of an amendment to the agreement between the City of Shawnee and the Community Market of Pottawatomie County relating to CDBG-CV2 grant nutrition assistance. And Mr. Harkins, one more time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Commissioners, this is an amendment to the agreement we made with Community Market using CDBG COVID funds. This was for nutrition assistance. The original agreement set a funding amount at $9 per family with an overall contract agreement. This lowers or decreases the amount of the overall contract by $36,000, but increases the amount spent per family from $9 to $14. Community Market, while trying to be aggressive and help a number of individuals, since we were starting later in the process, has not been able to make up that ground. And so the $36,000 saved will go back into the grant and be used for other areas, like grant and utility assistance, and other pieces of the program. The parties have mutually, between staff and Community Market staff and their discussions, have mutually agreed to this decision. Otherwise, we would just not be able to use those funds at the end of the day. And we felt this was a wiser choice. Staff's recommendation is approval of the amendment and authorization of the necessary signatures.
Very good. Does anyone got questions? Anyone have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Darren and Travis. All righty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 21. We'll call the question.
Yes.
And motion passes 6-0. Yeah, okay, we'll give him just a second then. Okay, item 22 is consideration of an ordinance to detach certain property. And Mr. Vondran, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm sure you'll all recall this item from last month's public hearing. At that time, several questions were raised with regard to the process by which the applicants came to file the petition and their interactions with city staff. It was requested that we look into those interactions, and so I do want to give a brief rundown of what occurred. And I need to give appreciation to Mr. Barkheimer and his staff for compiling this information for us. March 31st of 2022, Mr. Knox finishes a lot split procedure with planning and inquiries about addresses Zach in Planning informed that the addresses are typically issued with permits and are not issued for vacant land. The reason for that being that large parcels that could be further subdivided, and we don't want random legacy addresses in the 911 system. Issuing addresses is easy, rescinding or revising addresses is difficult. On June 9th of 2022, Mr. Knox reached out to Kevin about slab requirements and what building code cycle we were under. Kevin, with code enforcement, spoke to him and gave him the necessary info. On July 18th of 2022, Mr. Knox submitted permit application paperwork for a shop, which was an accessory building under the code. On July 24th, 2022, the city responded with comments on the permit application, specifically to provide all setbacks, provide all proposed utility stub-ins if applicable. Foundation must be 18 inches in depth, and the front yard setback from the property line must be 50 feet. Those were the specific requirements. The next day, on July 25th, 2022, Mr. Knox reached out to the city and asked for clarification on the comments. Mr. Moore investigated Mr. Knox's questions and provided clarification with coordination from planning. And the city showed comments 1 and 4 to be considered addressed. On August the 1st of 2022, the permit was issued. On August 3rd, 2022, and going into August 4th, 2022, there were inspections of the building footings. There were issues that were raised and provided to Mr. Knox. Internal notes show that Mr. Knox is unaccommodating of the comments. On September the 8th, 2022, and again on September the 9th, 2022, Mr. Knox submitted a requested compaction report and scheduled following inspections. 5 days later, on the 13th, staff requests a meeting to discuss the footing as it is still not acceptable upon inspection. Mr. Knox informs that he would be willing to do a phone call but would not meet them on the premises. On September 14th, 2022, Mr. Knox and staff speak on the phone regarding the issue. After the call, there is no additional contact. There's been no communication from Mr. Knox seeking any additional inspections or anything of that nature. Of note, it took 11 days from the time the permit was submitted to when the permit was issued. It underwent 2 different reviews. There are I apologize, I have difficulty reading that. Yes, and had communication continued, the address would have been provided within 6 days. So I believe that responded to, on behalf of the city, each of the problems and or questions that were raised during the public hearing per the commission's request, particularly in response to the accusation that city staff was unresponsive. As to the ordinance at hand, that has been prepared by staff after having the ability from the additional time after last month to complete the review of the detachment petition. City staff, based upon internal precedent and not based upon any definitive law, has made the determination that the petition is in fact sufficient and therefore is recommending approval of the ordinance to detach the subject property. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got questions? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Move to approve staff's recommendation on item 22.
I'll second. Neil and Mark. Okay, we have a motion and a second, so Joe, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance amending the boundaries of the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma by de-annexing, detaching certain property within the city of Shawnee, Potawatomi County, and also providing for severability, codification, repealer, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Oh. Oh, that's because it's so long. Man, you never know what you're going to see here. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for approval of item 22. We'll call the question.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add an emergency clause.
And motion carries 7-0. We have a motion for the emergency clause. Do we have a second?
Second.
And Cammie, okay. We have a motion and a second for the emergency clause. We will call that question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
And that motion carries 7-0. Item 23, consideration of following budget amendments for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. We have Fund 010 grant fund to account for the receipt of 2 grant awards, crisis intervention team for $173,600 and Edward Burr Memorial Grant for $21,824. And Ms. McNabb Fox is up.
All right, good evening again. I'm presenting to you for your consideration a budget amendment for the 22-23 budget year. This budget amendment is for a newly created fund specifically for the use of federal, state, and local grants that multiple city departments will be able to use, and the grants that are awarded each year. The purpose of the grant fund is then to ensure that funds are not commingled with other governmental funds. Previously, the city has utilized a separate fund for the CDBG awards, which will continue to be separate in its own fund. Today's amendment is to authorize the city to spend 2 grant awards that the police department has been awarded. The first award is the Crisis Intervention Team. This grant award timeframe is through August 2024, and it's for the use of mental health services, training, and police overtime. The total award was $347,000, but this amendment is for half of the award, which is the estimated spend for this fiscal year. The second grant is for the Edward Burns Memorial Grant in the amount of $21,824. These funds were previously received last month. This is a joint grant agreement between the Shawnee Police Department and the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office, and is for the purchase of training and safety supplies. The total budget amendment totals $195,424 in the grant fund.
Very good. Any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Amy and Travis. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 23. We'll call the question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
And that motion carries 7-0. Item 24, consider bids for Highland Street Sidewalk Improvement. Mr. Bockheimer.
Yes, sir. Hello, Mr. Mayor. At the bid opening back in March, if you'll recall, we had 5 bids. The low bid was $1,108,070 by EMC Services. We had 4 other bids, with the high bid being $1,523,087. Since then, staff has reviewed the bids. We're familiar with the low bidder. They are also the one contractor who did the Independent Street Sidewalk project, as well as our ongoing Kickapoo Street Sidewalk project. So we are very familiar with what the services that they provide. At this time, staff recommends awarding the bid to EMC Services LLC. That would be at the base bid for $1,108,070. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Any good questions? When do we think this would start? 'Cause I know
Typical answer would be, within 60 days. There'll be a time where we issue a notice of award, then we work through the contracts, and then have a pre-work, notice to proceed, etc. So within 60 days.
Very good. Yeah, very cool. Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion. We approve that.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Travis and Darren. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 24. We'll call the question.
Yes.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 25, consideration of agreement with Smith Roberts Baldishweiler LLC, SRB, for construction management inspection services for a Highland Street sidewalk improvement project. One more time, Mr. Barkheimer.
Yes, sir. So, as the mayor just read, this is for the owner's representative contract with SRB for Highland Street, the project that we just awarded on the previous item. The only thing that I would state, kind of beyond the obvious, is that as if you read the memo, as with EMC, SRB is also our owner's rep on Kickapoo Sidewalk. They were also the owner's rep on SRB, so we've essentially asked to assemble the same construction team that we've had on those previous sidewalk projects, hoping to kind of continue that working relationship and success. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the item, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Anybody got questions?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Mark and Cammie. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 25. We'll call that question.
Yes.
And that motion passes 7-0. Item 26 is acknowledged monthly sales tax report. And Ms. McNabb Fox will deliver that for us.
So, good evening again. The sales tax for April totaled $2,249,070, which includes $2,254 in interest. This is distributed across 7 funds with $1.28 million to the general fund. These collections are 17% over budget projections for the month and 4.8% over April of last year. Year to date, we are 13.7% ahead of budget and 6.1% over this same time last year. Use tax for April totaled $391,589, which is a 68% increase from April of last year, which this is the highest use tax collection to date. Year-to-date collections are 9.7% above this same time last year, and we're 4.9% above budget projections for the year. And I'd like to point out that use tax is very volatile. You can see on the chart in the graph, or in the graph on the handout, that use tax goes up and down quite a bit. And I don't know the indications of why April was so high, other than we could just see a very dramatic drop in May that might level things out. So we'll just have to see what caused that and if it continues. The general fund is currently 1.67 million above budget projections when you combine sales and use tax. We've appropriated approximately 1.1 million, leaving a balance unappropriated of 534,000. And with that, I'd like to answer any questions if you have any.
Any good questions? Continue to keep doing well. That's good news. Yeah, thank you very much. All righty, item 27, we've got administrative reports. 1, 2, 3 of them, looks like. Looks like the first one Mr. Barkheimer has.
That gets up there. So first off, thanks for the opportunity to speak a little bit about the park improvement projects that we have going on. Brad and I flipped a coin to see who would get to do this, and I'm not going to say who won or lost, but I'll say he cheated. That said, we're both really excited to provide an update on the parks, and let's dive in. So I know the commission is probably aware, but for those who are new or need a little context, I'll steal a little bit of Lindsay's thunder from later on, but in April of 2018, the Shawnee City Commission approved all necessary ordinances and actions to send a sales tax question to the citizens of Shawnee, known as Proposition Number 4. The proposition passed in June of 2021, and it increases the existing sales tax rate by 0.5%. The new rate became effective in October of 2018 and will expire in September of 2028. The city of Shawnee conservatively estimated that the sales tax rate will raise $30 million over a 10-year period, and increase the sales tax is specifically allocated for capital expenditures, as you can see on the screen. So 1/8 of 1% is earmarked for police, fire, and emergency management. 1/8 of 1% is earmarked for street and road projects, and 1/4 of 1% is earmarked for public parks and other public facilities. So backing up a little bit, even from the 2018 tax vote, in 2015, an inventory and assessment of our parks was put together. The city of Shawnee saw further need for an effective parks master planning effort to guide investment and decisions in the implementation of park improvements. To assist with this undertaking, the city selected CLS and Associates. The resulting 2017 Parks Master Plan first focused on only 4 parks, of which the preliminary plans were prepared, presented to the citizens of Shawnee at public meetings in May of 2017 and November of 2017. As a result of these public meetings, changes were made and more encompassing master plan was created and ultimately included 6 parks: Kid Space, Woodland Veterans, Boy Scout, Optimus, Dean Wygant, and the Celebration of Life parks. So as you know, the first 2 parks are receiving upgrades per the master plan is Kid Space and Woodland Veterans Park. As you can see in the 2 illustrations of how these parks will look when the current projects finish up, and I'll get into elements of the parks and what folks can expect at each park here in just a second, but I wanted to go ahead and provide an update on the current schedule, the construction progress. Currently, Kid Space Park is on the downhill slope, so if you've been over there or seen the images, it's really taking shape. The contractor is working feverishly to wrap up their effort in the bathroom building, and then we'll have some work for OG&E to do, come in and put lighting in the parking lot and around the trail. So, you know, we're hoping for a ribbon cutting or some type of event sometime in the next month or sometime in May. So we're expecting substantial completion to happen in late April, and then we'll have a punch list window and then have some type of full opening later on. So with Woodland Veteran, it's similarly progressing. If you recall, Woodland Veteran Park bid a couple months behind Kid Space when we did that. So it's originally scheduled for completion in July. If you'll recall, we had a change order on both projects due to a material delivery. The block for the bathroom building at Kid Space Park and the stage amphitheater structure at Woodland Veteran Park took a lot longer than we expected. It was originally supposed to be delivered in January, and it delivered about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So with those elements just now getting to kick off, there's been a little bit of a delay, but ultimately not too much. So let's get into elements we can look forward to in these parks, specifically Kid Space first. You have item A kind of highlighted there, exercise plaza and trail. So this includes an awesome 40-yard dash area, a walking trail that goes around the perimeter of the park, a ninja course. I hurt myself just kind of looking at that thing. Yeah. The south playground area, element B. This is the area for the 5 to 12 age group. To put it pretty simply, this is the impressive one that you guys see on the pictures that look so tall. Mm-hmm. It's really awesome. The north playground area, this is the 2 to 5 age group. Again, a ton to do here. Playground equipment, tunnels, turf berms, swings. I'm not sure that they're going to know what to do first. And then over in area D, we have the multi-sport court and pickleball field. It has the existing skate park, basketball, horseshoes, cornhole, outdoor ping pong tables, and of course the ever popular pickleball courts. Worth mentioning, scattered throughout, there's the 30 by 40 picnic pavilion, shade structures, a jumbo-sized chess set, and truly a world-class park. So I know that the Parks Department is pretty excited to show it off. So here you have some actual progress pictures of the park. And Mr. Mayor, I know that these came pretty familiar to you. These
Yeah.
are from the mayor's page. I appreciate it. It's awesome to see it from the perspective. And as you can see, it's really close to its completion already, with the exception of the bathroom building on that southwest corner. Moving on to Woodland Veterans Park, specifically highlighted there in Element A, the West Side Amphitheater and Playground area. This will really change over the next month. So it's been held up mostly, like I said, by that block delay, but it's going to start taking shape. So the holdup there was the structural steel that's included in the amphitheater stage structure had to sit on top of that block. So until we got the block brought in, we couldn't really put up the structural steel. So that's the big delay there. So, but it also includes a lawn seating area, another play area, and this is going to be a pretty incredible event space. Highlighted in B there, you have the East Side Activity Area. This area is resurfaced tennis courts, pickleball courts, new parking area, new bathroom, new sculpture garden, and again, sidewalk interconnecting everything. Again, worth mentioning here, the project also includes new parking along Highland, a food truck court, a new snow cone shack, a tree deck structure. And again, I think Parks is excited to take this over and really get the full benefit from it. So, looking specifically at the Stage Amphitheater, I thought it relevant to say thanks again to our community partner and the folks over at the Avitas Foundation. As you know, they were kind enough to enter into a grant agreement with us for the stage structure. That grant came before you all in July of last year and totals at $766,833.25, which is the estimated construction cost of the structure. This is going to be really cool, and I included those renderings there so you can kind of see what that final product will look like when it gets done later this year. So with that, I'd say thanks again and appreciate the opportunity to provide an update. And Brad's open to any questions that you guys have about the parks projects.
I have a not about the current builds. Those are absolutely amazing. How would we get either Farrell or Dunbar Park added to that 2017 list of parks that need help?
I think that's probably a question more for the city manager than myself.
I think there's a significant number of little people that those two parks serve, and they're pretty cut off from the rest of the city. Have to cross a pretty busy highway if they were to walk to one of those parks. And I think that being smaller parks, I think both of those could have pretty significant improvements done to them to not.
I know that updating the parks master plan generally has been a topic of not only the city manager's office, but community development as well as Brad. So I think certainly open to that possibility, but I think it'd just be a process when we go through that effort to include those or alter what we have currently on the books.
I greatly appreciate looking into that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's exciting. I've been lucky enough to go into Kid Space to do the photography, that they allowed me to go in there and do, and nobody can walk into there and not be excited about that place. I mean, it is truly world class, like you said. So, can't wait for that to open. Thank you very much. Okay. Next up is Ms. McNabb Fox with a update on the half-cent sales tax.
Yeah, all right. So Seth did steal my thunder a little bit. I should charge him for this copyrighted slide that he took. Anyway, so I won't go over this again, but I will give an update on our quarter to date updates. Since inception of the 2018 sales tax, we've collected $15.26 million in sales tax. That's through the April collections. And we have spent $15.77 million in community projects. In fiscal year 23 through the month of March, we've spent $6.27 million. specifically in the third quarter. These are the most notable expenses, projects that we've spent money on. The Kids Space Park and the Woodland Veterans Park that Seth spoke about earlier is $650,000 and then $988,000. And then the two projects on the sidewalks, which is MacArthur Street sidewalk at $136,000 and $262,000 for the Kickapoo Street sidewalk. I presented this chart last quarter, excuse me, and really on the public safety side of things, there's really not any notable changes on this. The two projects that are currently not completed are the Fire Station 1 and 3 remodel, which is still in the design phase, and then the fire training structure, which is currently on hold. Again, the next slide, this is for our streets and roads. Just a slight change to the expenses to date, but no real significant changes in this particular category. The parks and public facilities, again, we increased the expenses on the Implement Parks Master Plan, which is the two parks in the Kids Space and the Woodland Veterans Park. And that particular category added expenses to that to date. And as you can see, the new allocation column will update every quarter as sales tax collections come in. It'll either increase or decrease, hopefully increase, based on new collections. We'll update those revenue projections each quarter. The streets and the sidewalks and trails have 4 main projects that are, one is complete, which is the Independent Street. And then the Kickapoo, and tonight you approved the Highland project, and the MacArthur project is also ongoing. I will note the Santa Fe Depot, that we do have a contract with architects to begin that design phase, but there is that funding source there in that category of parks and public facilities. But really no other notable changes this quarter for the rest of those categories. So. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Do I get any questions? So earlier, someone asked a question about where the money was for the Santa Fe Depot.
Yes, sir.
The answer is it's in the bank. So we've spent a portion of that, but the rest of it is still sitting in there in the bank for the completion of that project.
Right, and it is sitting there waiting for us to spend it. And as the project goes underway, and expenses that they identify what is needed at the depot, then we will have that funding available for that.
Yep, absolutely. Very good. Appreciate the update.
Yes.
And we have one more. Our city manager will do an update on the 2023 proposed city charter amendments.
Thank you so much for hearing me out. I understand we have a very long meeting this evening, so I will walk through this presentation relatively quickly. You will see some slides that are familiar. There we go. You will see some slides that are familiar, but there were 2 that were added in the meantime. And we do have this presentation ready to go. If you know of a civic group or any group of residents who would like to hear about the proposed charter amendments, we'd be happy to go and talk to them. As you know, a municipal charter is a foundational document that defines both the organization, powers, and functions and essential procedures of city government. So in essence, our charter is comparable to the Constitution of the United States or a state's constitution. Our charter is therefore the most important foundational document that we have. In Oklahoma, any city or town containing a population of 2,000 inhabitants or more may adopt such a charter, and Oklahoma state law also requires a vote of the citizens to amend a city or town charter. So the city itself adopted its first charter in 1908, and we have updated our charter language multiple times since then. During the recent review that was conducted, we identified 7 areas of needed updates. The first of which is the ward-specific voting. Current charter language calls for a city commissioner to be nominated from the ward in which he or she resides, and the commissioner is then elected by the vote of the city at large. Citizens and elected officials proposed this amendment to determine if citizens would like to instead vote by ward only. If approved, residents of the individual ward registered to vote there will have the opportunity to vote for the commissioner they wish to represent their specific ward. The second amendment that was identified relates to competitive bidding. Current charter language requires contractors and vendors to comply with very specific local procedures not necessarily required by the state of Oklahoma. By aligning our city procedures with state law, contractors and vendors' familiarity with this common process will help save time and money, both for the city as well as the vendors. If approved, this amendment will align the city's competitive bidding requirements, again, with the state of Oklahoma. The next amendment proposed for charter change is the swearing in of mayors and commissioners. The current charter language requires the swearing in of newly elected mayors and commissioners on specific dates that do not always coincide with the date of regularly scheduled city commission meetings. If approved, this amendment will adjust the term of office for a newly elected official to start on the first regularly scheduled city commission meeting. The next proposed charter change relates to the qualifications of city employees. We had some relatively old charter language on the books here. Current charter language conflicts with state and federal employment regulations and laws. If approved, this amendment will expand employment prospects and align the city's employment requirements with both state and federal law. We also had some very specific language related to conflict of interest policies. Current charter language differs from those requirements established by state law. If approved, this charter amendment will align the city's requirements for commissioners, city officers, and employees with those established by state law. Twin Lakes regulations, we had a very extensive process through the Lake Advisory Committee. Current charter language related to swimming, water skiing, surfboard riding, and other water recreation sports conflicts with the Shawnee Twin Lakes related city codes that were most recently updated following the Lake Advisory Committee conclusions and the March 2022 acknowledgement thereof. If approved, this charter amendment will align the charter with adopted city codes regulating recreational activities at the Shawnee Twin Lakes. And then the final charter amendment proposed relates back to the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund. There, the current charter language regarding the management of revenues generated at the municipal cemetery for perpetual care funds differs again from requirements that are laid upon us by the state of Oklahoma. If approved, this amendment will simply align the charter with Oklahoma state law regarding the management of this perpetual care fund. Most importantly today, I would like to share with you that there is an extensive frequently asked questions. We try to work through all of the materials, any potential questions that had already been asked of us. So if you navigate to that particular city website, you will find a list of 50 questions. They're all grouped into each one of those charter amendments. Again, we'd be happy to provide presentations to civic groups if you know any that would like to hear more about these charter amendments and go into a deeper dive even after these FAQs. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you may have at this time.
Anybody have questions? No, I think we're good. Thank you, ma'am. It's very, very, very good. Item 28 is new business.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. 29 is commissioner comments. I think I picked on you last time, Lawrence, so we'll start down there, Daniel.
Sure, thanks. I was reminded early in the meeting of a quote I heard from Gene Rainbolt, who said the fastest way to change the world, or one of the fastest ways to change the world, is to make sure every kid has the opportunity to live up to their full potential. Mm-hmm. And early in the meeting, I think we saw some of the amazing kiddos in our community. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome to get to honor them. And so I just want to say congratulations to the swim team. I happened to be going down Kickapoo when they came back into town with the police escort, and that was really cool. And to get to see them tonight, and Logan winning a state championship in wrestling, our amazing math team that was so fun to have with us, and then the amazing kids that are representing us as sister city delegates. Just really fun to welcome some amazing kids, and just want to encourage everybody. Let's make sure the kids in our community have all the assets and ability to live up to their full potential. And I think if we do that, we'll see Shawnee continue to be the place that we want it to be for generations. I'm becoming more convinced every day, and I have been for a long time, that we're going to make progress on this homelessness issue when it's a private-public partnership. There are things that the government can do, but they can't do all of it. And so we need some passion in the private world to unite with the power of the public, and I think we can make some real progress. Enjoyed the day immensely with getting to spend it with my fellow commissioners and our city staff department heads in our strategic plan special call meeting. And I think getting to look to the future for our community and see all the possibilities we have is exciting. Appreciate the reports tonight, and look forward to supporting the ordinances and helping the city manager get into as many civic organizations and such as we can to get the word out, because those are important changes that we need to be making. Special thank you to Lindsay and Finance for all the budget work and presentation tonight, and continue to bring us good sales tax numbers, which we appreciate. And I think there was a comment which isn't lost on me, and it's true, that our numbers are great. They're not trending that far above inflation. I don't think we're losing ground, but they're not, I think, as is reflected in the conscientious budgeting that our staff is doing, to reflect that, the numbers are good, but the cost of operating the city is also more expensive. And so I appreciate our conscientious approach to budgeting that has helped us over the last few years go through a lot of unknowns and increases, but still be, as the audit report talked about, increasing in our financial health, and those are good things. I do want to disclose that I believe it's entirely possible that the spike in the use tax is directly related to my teenage daughters obtaining my Amazon login. And so pray for us.
Thank you, sir.
We've spent about 12 hours in this room today, and but I'm really honored for the opportunity to have been a part of this entire day. Truly, I mean, it's tiring, yes, but we've had so many wonderful conversations about where we're headed, where we want to go, getting real about where we are and how we can correct those things. And I think this room is full of people sitting up here and in the staff that are truly committed to making Shawnee the best place it can be with the resources we have, and then looking for resources that, getting creative for grants. And I see staff constantly working for outside sources of funding for these projects, and it's greatly appreciated. And I think a lot of towns don't have the collaborative efforts that we see in this room. And so we know we have issues that we have to address, but then at the same time, I think we have the right people in place to really move the pendulum forward and help the town go in the right direction. And I'm grateful for all of you guys. Wonderful news on the audit, because it wasn't exciting. I was gonna ask about the maybe public information officer coming up with a public relations or educational plan, but then it seems like there's plenty of information already prepared that we can put out for the vote that's coming up in June. So I really appreciate that, and we can push that out so everyone knows what they're voting on. June 13th, which is my anniversary, so I'll remember that. Congratulations to all the students. What a wonderful way to start the meeting. And that's really all I have tonight. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I think it's closer to 13 hours instead of 12 hours.
Yeah.
Very thankful for the opportunity to be here and to get to do this and to work with the amazing people that we have in our staff, and with the gentleman that came today and spent his time helping us brainstorm and build plans and look forward to the future while not forgetting the past. And that's you can't build a better plan than that. And so I'm very thankful, and I'm very excited that we'll get to share this the information of all of the dreaming and the brainstorming and the planning for not only city but for generations to come. I'm looking forward to that, and so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vice Mayor.
It has been a long day, very productive planning session today. There was just so much to it. The information is going to be made public if you weren't here, so there's just a lot, and everyone will see what that was. I want to thank staff for being here with us, for all your help and your participation, and all of us working together. The other commissioners, getting to work with everyone. I was a little taken back when I got oldest and youngest because you weren't here, so that left me.
You were the oldest?
Yeah, appreciate that. Kind of shocker for me, but thanks everyone. It was a good productive day.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I was excited to see the young people here, the effort they put into their sports, into their academics. You know, as a commissioner, and me and the mayor talked a little bit about it, you know, that these younger people need to figure out what they want their community to look like long term. You know, we're trying to guide the ship, but you know, over the next 20 years, the face of what we're seeing, it will be completely different than it is today. The parks, amazing, you know, what you're seeing, spending a tremendous amount of money there. I noticed some of the steel standing in Woodland Park over here when I drove up, which was, you know, kind of welcome to see. You know, you see kid space, you drive by and you see all that going on there, you know, and it's almost completed all the sidewalks in town, and a lot of stuff we don't see, you know, the water treatment plant, you know, that stuff isn't just visible like some of the stuff running up and down the roads. So the budget, you know, the effort that the finance people put into keeping us informed in the city's health, you know, how much better it is now than it was when I came on the commission 5 years ago is pretty amazing how the turnaround has been. I know they keep adding personnel or a few personnel, but they're still holding off on some that they probably need just because they're so conservative. So I hope y'all know that we appreciate that up here. You know, we want to leave it better than when we came. That's about all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
I'll repeat a lot of what you guys said too. The strategic planning day was I'm honored to be a part of that because we all had different ideas and we all had the same ideas and vision, and to put it all together and see it start to come to life, I'm grateful for it because it's my hometown, and anytime we would think through things, or we were seeing data, or we were having to put our ideas down on paper at the end, all I could think about was where we were headed, what my children are going to see, what people who are looking to Shawnee and deciding whether it's somewhere they want to be or somewhere they want to pass by. And we had so many great ideas, and I'm personally proud of all of us because it's an honor to be a part of it, and it's amazing to see what 8 straight hours of brain thinking and going nose to the ground really can do. I want to welcome Danny, and I forgot your last name. Danny Wise, is that your last name? Vice. I knew it was. It's been 12 hours, 13 hours. Welcome. It was great to work with you personally on parts of the strategic plan, but I'm happy that you're here, and I'm grateful that we have you now, and your position is much needed. I also am grateful to see like the regular agenda items of the task orders, things that like on the ARPA application list that are being pushed through, that we vote on and approve on, and just seeing progress made into that area. Like that was a big award that we got, and now we can actually, every month we see a task order that lends us the ability to vote and say, yes, we want to go ahead and fix these high priority critical issues. And I like to see those because that's us moving towards the progress that we know we wanted when we applied for it. And I'm thankful that we had the citywide cleanup event. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm thankful to the people who volunteered with me and walked with me and chatted with me and cleaned up areas of my ward. We found a lot of interesting things, and we had a lot of interesting conversations. And I don't know how often that happens. I feel like it's quarterly or every once in a while I see something, a sort of cleanup event. But it was nice to be able to do it in my own ward because I see it every day, and having a designated time to do it when I could just go out there anytime. It was nice to have that designated, this is going to happen then, and get out there with gloves and rain boots so I don't get, too thick into the woods and get dirty that much. But I think that's all for now.
All righty.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a good day, and I'm going to go really fast because you guys have touched on a lot of things, and it's after 9 o'clock, and we've been here since 8:30 this morning. So it's been a very good day. The strategic planning event was a really cool thing to participate in. And of course, we were all here, lots of staff was here, but I want to also point out that you two were here all day, and I really appreciate that because I know you guys work weird hours, and so when we go home, your day's just kind of starting. So Susie and Vicki, thank you for hanging in there tough today, and then helping us get the word out to everybody. I really do appreciate that. The staff updates were great as always. Sales tax news just keep bringing us good news. Danny, welcome. We're so glad to have you. I know Andrea is really glad to have you because you're going to be a big help to her. I think that's been an important addition that we've added that position now for a few years, and we're so glad to have you in Shawnee. Joe, I appreciate all your explanations tonight on the meetings and everything. It was great to celebrate all those kids. We have such an amazing community that we live in, and it's incredible what people accomplish out here. So don't ever let people tell you that we can't get great things done here in Shawnee. When people walk through Kids Space Park, they're going to absolutely be blown away. And you have to see it to believe it. It is, as Seth said, world class. I mean, it really is. And when I was out there doing some of the photography that I'm very, very happy to donate, I had a grandson with me, and let me tell you, he's the expert, and he just cannot wait for that thing to be open. So that is going to be an amazing place, and you know, hopefully we keep that thing really, really, really busy. There is something there. I don't care what age you are. There is something there for you, and when you see it, you're not going to ever have seen a nicer park anywhere. I mean, we may not be as big as the one in Tulsa or Oklahoma City, but well, I mean, our park is on par with anybody. So thank you for all the work. I cannot wait for both of those to get open. With that, we will recess the City Commission meeting by the power of the chair to convene the Shawnee Airport Authority and the Shawnee Municipal Authority. So I will find that in my notes here, and hopefully give everybody a chance to flip over there. So item 1 is consider approval of the consent agenda for the Airport Authority.
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir. Yep. We need to make sure everybody gets out and then get back in. I keep forgetting that. So do we go? Yeah. So I'm gonna leave that meeting. It's not as easy as just flipping a page anymore, is it? And now we cross our fingers and hope that. You get in?
Yep.
I'm still, I got the, kind of the little. It's thinking. Maybe you need to get up and sing or something. I don't know that I'm going to get in, but I've got it here on. Okay. So we had a motion.
Still move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
And Travis. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 1. We will call the question. You'll have to probably ask me.
Yes.
Yes.
This is going to show 5 votes, but it's because you two are not showing in on.
Okay, but we heard those verbally. And motion passes 7-0. Item 2 is new business.
No new business.
Thank you, ma'am. We are adjourned, and we will move on to the municipal authority. And I won't, but I think I'm just in kind of the spiraling, the death spiral there.
Death spiral.
Or-
There should be an option to join.
Ooh. If I, yeah. This'll fix it. I don't think I'm gonna get in there.
Move the
but
mayor's
we'll move
computer
on.
to surplus
I've got it
property.
here. So
We can
we're-
start with
We're in,
item number
okay.
2.
So item 1 is consider approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to
Oh,
approve.
how about that? My IT guy
second.
just got me in. We have a, no, I got it over. It was, we had a motion somewhere down there.
Second.
I second.
Cammy, was it,
I don't know what I did. It just.
someone made, was it Cammy, did you make?
Cammy made the motion.
I made the motion.
You can
Travis
tell
said-
we've been here a while.
I second.
So Travis was second.
Third.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for approval of item
Be a
1. We will
co-sponsor.
call the question. I bet I will even get to participate this way. There we go.
Co-sponsor.
Commissioner Richter,
Yes.
Okay, and if my math is right, motion carried 7-0. Item 2 is consideration of a budget amendment for fiscal year 2022 to 2023, Fund 501, Shawnee Municipal Authority Fund, to fund repairs to a damaged truck with insurance recovery funds for $13,036, replacement of a damaged truck with insurance recovery funds for $21,761, and an increase in the expense for the utility billing printing with water sales for $10,000. And Ms. McNabb Fox is up again.
All right, last time for tonight. All right, for your consideration tonight, I have 3 line items in the SMA fund that need amendment for the 22-23 budget. The first 2 are of the result of a vehicle incident, where one requires repairs, which will be fully funded by insurance funds in the amount of $13,036. And the other is a total loss, in which insurance funds of $21,761 was received and will cover half the cost of a replacement. The third line item is for an increase in utility billing cost for $10,000 that will be funded by water sales exceeding budget estimates. The total budget amendment for the SMA fund is $44,797.
Very good. Anybody got questions? Anyone have a motion?
Move to approve item 2.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 2. We will call the question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 3 is new business.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 4 is adjournment. We will go back to the commission meeting.
You should be able to go back to the commission meeting.
Board of Commissioners. Oh. Leave that one. And let's see, this will be item 30, if I'm keeping score here. Consideration, discussion, and possible action to enter into executive session to hold confidential communications between the City Commission of the City of Shawnee and its council concerning settlement of certain claims and pending litigation, City of Shawnee versus Purdue Pharma LP et al., 19 OP 46155 DAP, pending in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio and related litigation, including potential resolution of certain claims against Walmart, CVS, Teva, and Allegren related to lawsuits against pharmaceutical supply chains participants of opioid prescription drugs, and taking appropriate action in open session, including the possible authorization to settle claims, the disclosure of which may seriously impair the litigation if known by public disclosure, as allowed in 25 OS 307B4. So this is up for discussion, or do we have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll move to go into executive session to do what you said.
There we go. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? Okay, so Joe, I have a question for you, because I know there's, 3 on here, so do I read those now? Or, I mean, we've got a motion and a second to go into executive session, so.
We just need to call the question.
Just call the question. Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. So we will call the question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
No doubt.
the spinning wheel of death taking place on my computer right now. Yes.
And motion passes 7-0, so we will go down the hall and we will be right back.
Just lay it down
Did about
flat on
half
the
the time
ground.
tonight.
Don't unhook
See,
anything
that
yet.
That one down there is hard for me to see because it's behind my screen. I guess we're back. All righty, got the thumbs up, so let's go. Item 31 is consider approving participation in the Walgreens settlement agreement dated December 9, 2022, the retailer state subdivision agreement as it pertains to the Walgreens settlement agreement as recommended by, and the state backstop agreement applicable to the Walmart settlement agreement as recommended by Todd Court and Tony G. Puckett, McAfee Taft Legal Counsel for the City of Shawnee and other litigating Oklahoma subdivisions, including approval of resolution number 6699, and authorize the mayor of the City of Shawnee to execute the subdivision participation form for the City of Shawnee's participation in the Walmart's settlement agreement. Mr. Vondran, you're fast.
You said Walgreens. You said Walmart.
Walgreens. Yep, I stand corrected. That was Walgreens settlement agreement. Thank you for catching that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Without getting in detail what was discussed in executive session, these next 5 items, this item and the next 4 items, all relate to proposed settlement of distributors and are related to the opioid litigation that the City of Shawnee has entered into over the past several years. There's already been a manufacturer settlement that this body has entertained and approved. This falls in line with that. As is mentioned in the memo and has been discussed, the settlements, the 5 settlements that are before you for consideration will bring into the city at the low end just under $1 million, at the high end just over $2 million. And so that is what is being voted on today. Mr. Puckett with McAfee and Taft, who has been counsel for the city in these endeavors, is present if you have any further questions, but staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Travis and Daniel. All righty, we have a motion and second for approval of item 31. We will call the question.
Yes.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 30.
Mr. Mayor, before we
Yes,
go to
sir.
the next item,
Yes, sir.
if I may, just to ensure the accuracy of the record, I need to read the resolution title into the record.
Okey-doke.
And this is a resolution to approve participation in Walgreens settlement agreement. That
Thank
was what was just voted on.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Item 32 is consideration approving participation in the Walmart settlement agreement, November 22nd, 2022, the retailer state subdivision agreement as it pertains to the Walmart settlement agreement, and the state backstop agreement applicable to the Walmart settlement agreement for the City of Shawnee and other litigating Oklahoma subdivisions, including approval of resolution number 6700, and authorize the mayor of the City of Shawnee to execute the subdivision participation form for the City of Shawnee's participation in the Walmart settlement agreement. Mr. Vondran, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Again, same presentation I just made. This agreement is part and parcel to the Walgreens agreement and the 3 items that are yet to come, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Staff does recommend approval, sorry.
No problem. Any questions for Joe? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve it.
Thank you, sir. Travis and Cammie this time. All righty.
And Mr. Mayor, this would be a resolution to approve participation in the Walmart settlement agreement.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 32. We'll call the question.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 33, consider participation in the CVS settlement agreement dated December 9, 2022, and the retailer state subdivision agreement as it pertains to the CVS settlement agreement and the state backstop agreement applicable to the CVS settlement agreement as recommended by Todd Court and Tony G. Puckett, McAfee Taft Legal Counsel for the City of Shawnee and other litigating Oklahoma subdivisions, including approval of resolution number 6701, and authorize the mayor of Shawnee to execute the subdivision participation form for the City of Shawnee's participation in the CVS settlement agreement. Yes, sir.
Commissioners, nothing different to say. Happy to answer any questions if you have them. We are recommending approval.
Any questions or a motion?
Move to approve item 33.
Thank you, sir. Daniel and Travis. Okay, you're going to read the title?
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution to approve participation in the CVS agreement.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 33. We'll call the question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 34, consider approving participation in the Allergan settlement agreement dated November 22, 2022, and the Allergan State subdivision agreement and the Allergan State backstop agreement as recommended by Todd Court and Tony G. Puckett, McAfee Taft Legal Counsel for the City of Shawnee and other litigating Oklahoma subdivisions, including approval of resolution number 6702, and authorize the mayor of Shawnee to execute the subdivision participation form for the City of Shawnee's participation in the Allergan settlement agreement. And you're up again one more time. Same story, I would think.
That is correct. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, staff is recommending approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, or do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Who is that second? Mark. Okay, very good. All righty. We have a motion and a second, so you are up, sir.
A resolution to approve participation in Allergan settlement agreement.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 34. We'll call the question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
And motion passes 7-0. Item 35, consider approving participation in the TIVA settlement agreement dated November 22nd, 2022, and the TIVA State subdivision agreement and the TIVA State backstop agreement as recommended by Todd Court and Tony G. Puckett, McAfee Taft Legal Counsel for the City of Shawnee and other litigating Oklahoma subdivisions, including approval of resolution number 6703, and authorize the mayor of Shawnee to execute the subdivision participation form for the City of Shawnee's participation in the TIVA settlement agreement. Mr. Vondran, the floor is yours one more time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Same song, different verse. Staff recommends approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, or do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Darren and Daniel. Okay, got one more time.
A resolution to approve participation in TIVA settlement agreement.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 35. We'll call the question.
Commissioner Richter?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 36 is adjournment. We will finally go home.
Motion to approve.
Don't need
Are
it.
we?
Chair can do that.